Hey, good morning, friends and neighbors. Welcome to the program, The Bill Press Show, this Thursday, February 6th. Here we are in our nation's capital on Capitol Hill, keeping our eye on what's going on here, bringing you the news of the day and taking your comments. We're here on Free Speech TV. You got a satellite dish, you know where to find us, DirecTV or the Dish Network. And we're here on our video stream, TawkrTV, TawkrTV, youtube.com/TawkrTV. Give us your comments. Give us a call at 866-55-PRESS. Give us your comments on Twitter at BP Show and on Facebook at facebook.com/Bill Press Show. Things you're going to want to talk about today. Number one, President Obama is just one of those who has sent his congratulations to CVS for their big announcement yesterday that as of October 1, they are going to stop selling cigarettes and tobacco products in all of their 7,600 drugstores across the country. It'll cost them $2 billion in sales, but they say it's just not right to be selling those cigarettes when they paint themselves as healthy places and places for people to get healthy again. They are absolutely right. Good for them. Jay Leno ends his 22-year reign at NBC tonight. Last night of The Tonight Show, he'll turn the baton over, of course, hand it over to Jimmy Fallon. And today is the prayer breakfast here in Washington, D.C. Yes, the president and the vice president will both attend and sit down in public prayer with religious leaders, a clear violation of the separation of church and state. Thomas Jefferson and James Madison would never have agreed to attend that function. And finally, a woman in a town hall with a congressman out in Oklahoma says that President Obama should be executed, and that idiot congressman does nothing but stand there and grin when she says it. All of that coming up right here this morning on The Bill Press Show.
This is The Bill Press Show.
Don't look at me. Your hair's a bit frizzy today. Oh, you should pick that up. Oh, you're such a dork, loser. Here, let me help you with that. Oops.
Every day, kids witness bullying.
Oh, look. Your crush is looking at you. Poor you.
They want to help, but don't know how.
See, no one here's gonna help you, because no one
Teach your
likes
kids
you.
how to be more than a bystander. Visit stopbullying.gov.
If you drive buzzed, it could cost you around $10,000. You'll face major legal fees, major fines, and steep insurance penalties. You could lose everything. Nothing kills a buzz like getting pulled over for buzz driving, because buzz driving is drunk driving.
When some people struggle with their mortgage payments, they become frozen, petrified. Not knowing what to do, they do nothing. But the people who take action are far more likely to get the most positive outcome. Making home affordable is a free government program. Call now to talk one-on-one with a housing expert about the options that are right for you. Real help, real answers, right now.
Here at the GED Pep Talk Center, we have pep talkers standing by to get you motivated for your GED diploma. Text the name Terry to 69222 for a sympathetic pep talk.
You show people what you really are.
Or for a gentle pep talk, text the name Deborah.
You know you're going to make people very proud of you.
And if that's not enough, text the name Danny for an extreme pep talk.
Prove everyone wrong. Show them you're the boss.
Get your GED pep talk and find free GED classes. Text the name of the person you want a pep talk from to 69222.
Did you see the world differently? Did you celebrate the victory?
So today, I state clearly and with conviction America's commitment to seek the peace and security of a world without nuclear weapons.
Did you stand up against our greatest threat? Change the world.
is the Bill Press Show.
It is being called on the East Coast the second worst storm since Hurricane Sandy. Batten down the hatches, folks. Get ready. Here we go. And here we go with this Thursday edition of the Bill Press Show. Good morning. Good morning. So good to see you this morning. God, you're looking good. All right. This is our second most favorite day of the week. Here we go. Closing in on the weekend. We start celebrating on Thursday. Good to see you today, and thank you for joining us. Good to be there with you on your local progressive talk radio station, whether you're listening at home, in the car, at the office, or wherever. Also good to see you on Free Speech TV, all across this great United States of America, every little corner and village and town and village and big city. We're there with you on Free Speech TV, and if you've got a satellite dish, and anywhere on the planet, we're there with you on our video stream at TawkrTV, TawkrTV, youtube.com/TawkrTV. And lots to talk about today on many, many different fronts. So get ready. Everything from CVS to the Olympics gearing up to start tomorrow, to the prayer breakfast today, to some outrageous comments or lack of comments by members of Congress when it comes to President Obama. We got the whole landscape covered today, waiting to hear from you and take your calls at 866-55-PRESS. Get your comments on Twitter at BP Show and on Facebook at facebook.com/Bill Press Show. Peter Ogburn and Elisa Murphy leading up the team this morning. Hello, hello.
Hey. Good morning.
Alicia Cruz, look who's here. Yeah, she's waiting for your calls again at 866-55-PRESS. And you hear us on your local progressive talk radio station. You see us on Free Speech TV and on TawkrTV, our video stream, because Cyprian Bolding, our videographer, he's got the cameras working this morning. There we go.
He turned them on today.
Turn them on. It's nice. Yeah. If he's in a good mood, he turns the cameras on. If he's not, screw you.
You never know what you're going to get.
You never know what you're going to get. Exactly. How about it? Well, you know, we are, I am a proud union member for many years, and we are a proud union shop, and we are proud to be supported by many of our great labor unions, which, and you hear me recognize them every day, almost every hour. It was Vice President Joe Biden yesterday speaking to the auto workers meeting here in Washington, who gave his shout out to unions.
One of our problems is not enough elected officials remember how to pronounce the word union. Everybody talks about workers. I talk about unions.
Unions. Oh, Joe, you got it. Yeah, that's right. It's a three-syllable word. Unions. Let Joe be Joe. I got to tell you. Man. I love him. He's at his best when he just gets out there and goes off script, right?
Yeah, I love it.
Never know what's going to happen. Boy, what a great lineup we got for you today. Two outstanding Democratic members of Congress. Congressman George Miller from California, Congressman Mike Michaud from the state of Maine, and Cindy Boren from the Washington Post. Sports blogger will be here to talk about Sochi. They're just three of our outstanding guests today. And, of course, you are the most important guest. Don't forget, give us a call at 866-55-PRESS. And what do you say? You're a member of Congress and somebody in a town hall you're holding stands up and says, I think we ought to execute this president. What do you say, Democrat or Republican? You're going to find out. But first,
this is the Full Court Press.
Just a couple of other stories making news. Bill, sad news to report. Sad news to report. Last week, we spoke about the Capitol Fox, the fox that was on the Capitol grounds here at the United States Capitol.
Yeah, that's right. I thought it was the White House, but it was the Capitol grounds.
It was the Capitol grounds.
Yes.
Well, the fox is no longer with us.
Oh, no.
DCist reports that the Department of Public Works spokesperson Linda Grant confirmed that the remains of the fox were picked up on the Capitol grounds earlier this week. So the fox is no longer with us.
Well, what happened?
They think that a driver struck the fox right there by the Capitol, and it was like on the Capitol grounds technically, but right there on the street, probably alongside the road there. So it was struck by a motorcycle.
Oh, that's sad. They didn't shoot it.
They didn't shoot it. They didn't exterminate it. It was an accident. But, this is what happens when you have foxes running wild in a big city. They get something, they get hit by a car. So,
that's sad.
Rest in peace, the Capitol Fox. Next month is St. Patrick's Day, and New York City is known for having a giant St. Patrick's Day. One person who will not be marching in the parade, for the first time in 20 years, the mayor of New York City, Bill de Blasio, said he will not be marching in it because of the stance that the St. Patrick's Day parade has towards LGBT-themed participants. They've notoriously excluded them, and Bill de Blasio said he's not going to participate in that particular parade, the official big New York City parade, but that he is going to participate in several other events around the city.
Well, they don't have any allow any gays in the St. Patrick's Day parade because there are no gays in Ireland.
That's right.
Yeah.
So St. Patrick drove them all out.
There aren't any in Sochi either.
That's right. Exactly.
Yeah. He drove them out with the snakes.
With the snakes, exactly.
You know what? Good for Bill de Blasio.
Right.
That's like CVS standing up and saying we're not going to sell cigarettes.
That's right.
People taking a stand on behalf of a good, an important moral issue. Yeah. Yes, absolutely. Good for him.
And it is the last week that Jay Leno is hosting the Tonight Show.
By the way, I just have to say, it's the organizers of that parade who are really bowing down to the Vatican. That are to be blamed in this thing. It's just despicable. They do not represent the Irish people. I think that's very, very clear.
It's a very good point. You mentioned earlier Jay Leno. It's his last week as host of The Tonight Show. Well, a study done by the Center for Media and Public Affairs at George Mason University went through all of the years that Leno's been doing it since 1992, took a look at all of his monologue jokes, and here's what they found. 43,892 jokes were told by Leno. The subject most joked about by Leno?
The president.
Well, one president in particular.
Which one?
That's interesting. George Bush.
You would think, but it was President Bill Clinton.
Oh, of course, Clinton.
He came in with 4,607 jokes by Leno.
Yeah. Okay.
There you go.
No, that would have to be Clinton.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, those jokes sort of wrote themselves.
They really did. All right. Hey, friends and neighbors, I got to tell you. So last night I was on MSNBC on Politics Nation with the Reverend Al Sharpton. Loved doing that show. And we talked about something that got me so, I found so outrageous. I just got to talk about it again this morning. I've just been pissed off ever since. And it all concerns this congressman from Oklahoma. I never heard of him before. Most of us never heard of him before. Jim Bridenstine. I mean, how the hell an idiot like this would get elected to Congress is beyond me. I mean, this guy does not represent the American people. I don't think he represents the people of his district. But at any rate, he's a Tea Partier, of course. He's as extreme right-wing as you can get, of course. He has a little town hall meeting. Now, this is kind of hard to understand, but I want you to listen to this woman. She raises a point so far, you can't blame the congressman. This is a constituent at this little, it's really a small room it's not really like a town hall. It's just like a sort of like a meeting he's having in this one town. But at any rate, she goes on and on about what she finds wrong with President Obama.
Let me ask you that Obama, he's not president as far as I'm concerned. He should be executed. He's an enemy combatant.
Executed. You heard that.
The Muslims that he is shipping into our country through pilots in commercial jets. What's this? I can't tell you. I can't say because we're in a public place. This guy is a criminal. Nobody's stopping. And the other thing is, too, with Congress doing nothing, that legally allows this moron to make decisions.
So, what she's saying is that this guy ought to be executed, she says, right? He's an enemy combatant. And she says, I can't really say everything I want to say because this is a public place. But what about his bringing Muslims in here as pilots of commercial airliners? I mean, whoa, this is so, right? Again, she says he's a criminal, and the Congress not doing anything allows this moron to make these decisions. I mean, how how just extreme can you get? How far over the line can you get, right? And what does a congressman say? Here is Jim Bridenstine, is his response.
Everybody knows the lawlessness of this president. He picks and chooses which laws he's going to enforce or not enforce. He does it by decree.
Oh yeah. Well, everybody knows about the lawlessness of this president, says the Congress. That's his response. This is so outrageous. I mean, how can you respond to that? First, I'll tell you what I believe is number, and I said this last night with the Reverend Al, is number one, I hope the Secret Service is knocking on that lady's door. You don't make jokes about assassinating, killing the President of the United States. Nobody else can do it and get away with it. I hope they're knocking on her door. But not only that, I hope they're knocking on his door, because that idiot should have said something and he didn't. And by his, you know what, his silence is what is so shocking in this thing. His silence equals assent. His silence equals consent. His silence, he's not inciting violence himself, but he's certainly encouraging violence by not saying anything in response to that. It is just absolutely outrageous. But the Reverend Al pointed out, and I give him credit, and we've taken these clips from his show last night, that Bridenstine, this is the most extreme, but hardly alone. Here is a Congresswoman, Tea Partier, Martha Roby, down in Alabama. This is from a town hall in 2013.
What I need from you is to know what you can do, you and your fellow non-communist colleagues in the lower house, what you can do to stop these communist tyrannical executive orders laid down by this foreign-born, American-hating communist despot. What can you do for me? We need to know.
So, thank you for your question. He said it loud enough that you all heard it.
Thank you for your question.
Okay.
What can you do about this foreign-born, American-hating despot? Member of Congress, thank you for your question. Good Lord. Where are these people coming from? What are they doing? Where's their responsibility at all? I mean, let's take another one. Here's Carrie Bentifolio out in Michigan when a constituent at a town hall suggests impeachment.
He needs to be stopped.
Articles of impeachment.
Yes, we need to get that. It should have been started a long, long time ago. Is somebody going to finally draw up something that's going to stop this runaway train that we have in the White House?
You know, if I could write that bill and submit it,
do it.
It would. Yeah. Excuse me. It would be a dream come true.
A dream come true. Oh yeah, we need to impeach this guy. And Bentifolio from Michigan says, oh, yeah, if only I could write that bill, it would be a dream come true. Can you believe the irresponsibility of these people, the extremism of these people? But here's what gets me, and I love your comments on this. And by the way, they're not the only ones, all right? We'll tell you what Steve King has said when we come back from the break. But here's my question. I mean, where is the leadership on this? It's not only the silence of Bridenstine and Roby and Bentifolio that's so shocking. Their failure to respond to this. But what about the silence of John Boehner and Eric Cantor? Why aren't they out there saying, no, this is unacceptable? You've got a responsibility to stand up and say something. Remember, a year or so ago, John McCain at a town hall meeting, some woman came up and said, I can't stand this guy. I mean, you know, look, he's an Arab. And John McCain took the microphone from her and said, no, ma'am. He is a God-loving, good family man, American patriot. I just happen to disagree with some of his policies. I mean, McCain showed some courage there, and he showed some guts. He showed some civility. So what about John Boehner? I'll tell you one thing. Why isn't John Boehner condemned these statements? Why isn't he publicly condemned his members, Tea Partiers, for not reacting and not telling these people they were wrong to use that kind of language? John Boehner and Eric Cantor, shame on you. And I'll tell you something else. If a Democrat had said this, If a Democratic member of Congress had allowed somebody to say this at a town hall meeting without responding, Nancy Pelosi would have been in their face. She would have condemned them outright, and so would the media. Why this special treatment, and why this silence on the media's part? Who else is talking about this? Me and Al Sharpton, right? Nobody else is talking about it. Nobody else. They let this woman talk about executing the President of the United States. Doesn't even make news. What have we come to? 866-55-PRESS. Let's talk about it. Don't you think that congressman has a responsibility, and so does John Boehner, and so does Eric Cantor, to condemn that kind of language? Let's hope so. 866-55-77-377.
This is the Bill Press Show.
A single ember that escapes from a wildfire can travel more than a mile. That single ember can ignite and destroy your home or even your community. You can't control where that ember will land, only what happens when it does. Get Fire Adapted now at fireadapted.org.
Columbine, Virginia Tech,
Tucson,
Aurora,
Fort Hood, Oak Creek,
Newtown.
Newtown,
Newtown.
Newtown.
How many more?
How many more? How many more colleges? How many more classrooms?
How many more movie theaters?
How many more houses of faith?
How many more shopping malls?
How many more street corners?
How many more?
How many more?
Enough.
Enough.
Enough. Enough.
Demand a plan.
Right now. As a mom.
As a dad. As a friend. As a husband.
As a wife.
As an American.
As an American.
As an American.
As a human being.
For the children of Sandy Hook.
Demand a plan. No more lists of names. It's not too soon.
It's too late.
Now is the time.
Before we all know someone who loved someone on that list.
No more lists.
No more.
Who they might have been. No more.
If we had just done something yesterday. It's time.
We can do better than this.
We can do better than this.
It's time.
It's time.
It's time for our leaders to act.
Demand a plan. Right now.
Right now.
You! Demand it!
Enough.
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 None of us would want to be told we can't marry the person we love. As Americans, we believe in freedom. That's what I fought for as a Marine, and that's what we believe in as Republicans. Freedom means freedom for everyone. I didn't used to understand the importance of same-sex marriage, but after learning my brother was gay, I wanted the same rights for him. He was the best man at my wedding, and I want to be the best man at his. It's only fair that Calvin should have the freedom to marry the person he loves, too.
It's time for marriage.
At Earth Justice, we defend the environment in the courtroom. Join our fight. When you take a seat, you take a stand. Earth Justice, because the Earth needs a good lawyer.
So, I'm kind of new here, but I've noticed a trend. My human does this funny thing where she goes around and gets all my toys, and then she hides them in that basket by the door. You know, but it's always the same basket, and it's always in the same place. And then she acts so surprised when I find them, but, you know, she's putting them in the same basket. Again. It's like, hello, that's where you put it last time. You were the worst at hide and go seek.
This is the Bill Press Show.
Here we go, 26 minutes after the hour. Yep, member of Congress held a little meeting with his constituents. A woman says, I think we ought to execute this moron. Talking about President Obama, and the congressman just smiles and says, oh, yeah, we all know how lawless he really is. And nobody does nothing. What have we come to? Jim is calling from Pittsburgh. Hey, Jim, what do you think?
Good morning, Bill. How are you this morning?
All right. Thank you. A little
Bill,
worked up. Go ahead.
I watched you last night with Reverend Al.
Yeah.
These people are crazy. Mm-hmm. They talk about free speech, but there's a consequence to free speech.
Yes.
I was always taught, think before you say it. Don't say it and then think. You know, the president's using drones in Pakistan and Afghanistan on people just like this. Crazies, nuts, that want to do insane things.
And you know,
I support the president 100%. I believe he may be the best president we ever had.
But you know, the point is, Jim, I appreciate the call. Is you can. It's okay to disagree with President Obama. God knows I do often enough. I disagree with President Bush. I never said the moron ought to be executed. I mean, there are some limits, huh? No, I would hope so. Joey, out in Chicago. Joey, what do you say? Hey, man, good to talk to you.
Hey, good morning, guys. Didn't Royce Previs just call the guy from MSNBC and tell him to fire that guy for bringing up the racist comments of right-wingers on the last commercial?
Yeah.
How much more racist can you be?
Yeah.
Where is the leadership of the Republican Party? They're so quick to denounce a Democrat for even mentioning the racism of a Republican, but look at what the Republicans do. Look at what they're talking about every time they go to a town hall. I still can't believe they fired that guy.
Excellent point, Joey. Yes, indeed. Yeah, where was, pardon me, where was Reince Priebus, right? Where was the outrage of Reince Priebus? Demanding maybe that somebody fire this congressman. If you want to be consistent, more on this coming up. More calls coming up.
This is my computer.
This is your computer. Let's go on the internet.
Let's go. Click it.
Yes.
Okay.
I cursor in between the R and the E. Pressing down, I want you to just push the period.
She's gonna love me all over again.
That's it. Jamaica, here you go.
Here we go.
Good job.
Thank you. And I did it by myself. Feel smarter.
So, I'm kind of new here, but I've noticed a trend. My human does this funny thing where she goes around and gets all my toys, and then she hides them in that basket by the door. You know, but it's always the same basket, and it's always in the same place. And then she acts so surprised when I find them, but, you know, she's putting them in the same basket. Again. It's like, hello, that's where you put it last time. You were the worst at hide and go seek.
same time next week?
Well, of course. Put away a few bucks, feel like $1 million. For free tips to help you save, go to Feed the Pig.
All right. I know this isn't any fun to talk about, but we should. Okay. So who's going to do what?
I'll pack the dead batteries.
Great.
I'll only put what I don't need into a duffel bag.
Perfect. That's totally unhelpful.
No problem.
Meanwhile, I will try to comfort everyone by speaking in a calm voice.
And I'll try to get the generator going without any gas.
Oh, let's not forget the cell phones, which probably won't work.
Right.
And who is going to handle supplies?
I can forget to do a list for us.
Thanks, pal.
Well, I think we couldn't be any less prepared. I'm proud of you guys.
Talk to your kids about who to call, where to meet, what to pack. Visit ready.gov/kids for tips and information.
Hey, thanks for stopping by. You know, I followed your character since the first episode. I'm a big fan. Big fan.
Thank you.
And listen, your storyline, it makes for incredible TV drama. Thing is, your drug use is very adult content. Too adult for the kids. So I'm gonna have to block you.
Oh, man.
Yeah. Well, have a good one.
You're a nice lady.
You wouldn't let money just blow out of your house. So when your AC or heater is on, make sure the doors, windows, and fireplace flue are shut tight. If you're headed out, turn down the AC or lower the heat by 10 degrees. And always keep your water heater set at 120. A little bit of common sense goes a long way. Get more great tips at energysaver.gov.
So, I'm kind of new here, but I've noticed a trend. My human does this funny thing where she goes around and gets all my toys, and then she hides them in that basket by the door. You know, but it's always the same basket, and it's always in the same place. And then she acts so surprised when I find them, but, you know, she's putting them in the same basket. Again. It's like, hello, that's where you put it last time. You were the worst at hide and go seek.
Serious matter, a shocking matter when so many of these Republican Tea Party members, notice these are all Tea Party Republicans. These are not, moderate, mainstream, conservative Republicans. These are the extremists. These are the wackos that have been elected by Tea Partiers and Tea Party activists with the help of the Koch brothers in district after district, some 70 of them around the country. We see what happens in these town halls where the kind of it's their language against President Obama. Let's make sure that clear, which has encouraged and prompted and incited some of these residents to respond the same way. Remember, I wrote the book, The Obama Hate Machine. It's not, here's where we disagree with President Obama about immigration or health care or the environment, global warming, or whatever. No, it's here's how we hate this man and want to bring this man down and say anything personal and ugly we can possibly think of about him. When a woman at a town hall meeting with this Jim Bridenstine in Oklahoma says we ought to execute this moron, Bridenstine just smiles and says, yeah, well, we all know how lawless he is. We gave you some of the other examples. Here's one more from Steve King, known Tea Party idiot out in Iowa, who talking about President Obama being a Marxist and worse, a Muslim.
He's a Marxist. He's a Muslim Marxist.
Well, he's at least a Marxist. He surely understands the Muslim culture.
He surely does. And that's where he grew up with. That's what his culture is.
He doesn't have an American experience.
Yeah.
He does not have an American
He didn't grow up in America.
You hear Steve King say, yeah, well, he's at least a Marxist and certainly Muslim, does not have an American experience. This guy grew up in Hawaii. Yeah, he spent a couple of years in Indonesia. He grew up in Hawaii. Hawaii is part of the United States. These people, I'm telling you. And again, when Steve King says something like that, John Boehner says nothing. Eric Cantor says nothing. Reince Priebus says nothing. They are, by their silence, consenting and assenting to this kind of stuff.
You can find us on Twitter, by the way, at BP Show, at BP Show. A lot of good comments coming in on this topic if you want to weigh in there. J.D. Hogg says that racism in the GOP began with Lee Atwater. Just pointing out
going way back,
that might be where it started. Ann Corridon says that this is one of the Republicans' talking points, just sort of how they act. So you can get involved on Twitter at BP Show.
How about John up in Somerville, New Jersey? Hey, John, what do you say? Good morning.
I had an employee of mine, Bill, who someone had overheard mistakenly thought that he had threatened George Bush, and the Secret Service was there the next day.
No kidding.
Middle Eastern descent, interviewing him in my place of business for an hour.
Wow. Yeah.
And he didn't even do it.
Right.
But they were right there investigating him. Why aren't these Tea Party people and these congressmen subjected to the same type of scrutiny?
I asked the same question last night on MSNBC, John. I agree. They ought to be. But not only, you hear that and they do that, and that's their job. And the Secret Service does an incredible job. I know a lot of them, great people and dedicated people, and they really would take a bullet for the president, even though they may not agree with what that president stands for. That's not the point. And I think the Secret Service ought to be at that woman's door and at that congressman's door and talk to that congressman and said, what were you thinking? What do you really believe about this president, and why didn't you stand up? And let me point out something else. That I made a point I made last night that Al Sharpton I was on with Joe Madison was the other guest, and me. We're three of us, all talk show hosts. We have the same situation. I mean, we are not elected officials, but often we'll get a call from somebody who goes over the line. We'll be talking about something. I forget. It just happened last week in whatever issue we were talking about, and a caller will just go too far in a personal kind of attack against somebody. And it's our job, and you've heard me do it, and Al's done it, and Joe does it all the time, is stand up and say, no, what, wait, we can disagree with this, but that's over the line. That's your responsibility in a position like this, and it's certainly even more so if you're an elected member of Congress. Bob is in Plainfield, Illinois. Hey, Bob.
Hi, thanks for taking my call, Mr.
Yes, Bill. Okay, sure. Thank you.
The same thing happened to George W. Bush during his terms. And actually, the Secret Service arrested people for that. You may not like the man, but you must respect the office.
Amen. I was taught that, and I believe that, and I always have.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Go ahead, Bob. Sorry.
No, I don't care who's in the office. We have to respect the office. And that's why every 8 years or every 4 years, we show a peaceful transition from one to the other. Nowhere else in the world does this happen.
Absolutely. But you know what it is, Bob? These people, like the people whose quotes we just heard from these town hall meetings, and these members of Congress, of course, have never accepted Barack Obama as a legitimate president, and they never will. And God knows we liberals and we Democrats, we passed the ultimate test in 2001 when we accepted George W. Bush as the legitimate president, even though he wasn't elected, right? He was appointed by the Supreme Court. I mean, with Al Gore's leadership, at that time, we just said, swallowed and said, okay, we didn't spend the next 8 years questioning whether or not he was really an American or whether or not he was really a president. I've never seen anything like this. And again, what really disturbs me is the failure of John Boehner and Eric Cantor to set the example. They ought to, and Reince Priebus, the Republican chair. And Joey made that an excellent point just before the break for the half hour. I mean, Reince Priebus was so quick to condemn MSNBC because somebody at MSNBC just sent out a tweet saying, boy, the racists are not going to like that Cheerios commercial. He demanded that they fire somebody. He hasn't said squat about Jim Bridenstine or Marcy Roby or whatever that, Martha Roby or Carrie Bentifolio or Steve King. Not squat about them. Liz, calling from Columbia, Maryland. Hey, Liz.
Missouri.
Missouri. I'm sorry. There you go. Hi.
Okay, I just turned the TV off. Well, anyway, I think it's terrible that people don't believe that my president is my president.
Yeah.
It's ridiculous. And, I just heard you say that John McCain, when somebody accused him of being Muslim, but I don't care, what religion anybody is. It doesn't matter to me.
Right. And with John McCain, it was just they were getting personal against President Obama, and John McCain said, no, we don't go there, right? And no, ma'am, you are wrong. I mean, that was the right thing to do for John McCain. And God knows you've heard me disagree with John McCain a lot, but that showed a lot of courage. It was simply the civil thing to do, right?
Right.
Whatever happened to just plain old civility? I mean, even in our daily lives, right? We see people we disagree with, we may not particularly like. At least you're civil to them and say hello, good morning. All right, one more call here. Chip is out in Lawrence, Kansas. Hey, Chip.
Good morning.
Good morning. What do you think? Yeah.
Is this not equivalent to Bill with the way the politicians aren't saying anything? It's almost as bad as Bill O'Reilly, calling abortion doctors baby killers, and then, said, oh, you had it coming when someone went and killed one while he was in his church. I don't remember the name of the doctor here in Kansas.
You're absolutely right, and I'm blanking on his name too. Yes, Chip, I would say it is as bad, and that kind of, and I talked a lot about it at the time. There's no doubt. Look, here's the thing: words have consequences. Bill O'Reilly's words had consequences when people hear him talk about baby killers. Some people on the edge, right? That'll trigger them to go out and actually kill someone, kill a medical provider. And the same thing here when a congressman doesn't say anything when people talk about executing the president. Somebody could easily see, oh, that's an invitation for me to commit violence. When Glenn Beck talked about the Tides Foundation in San Francisco undermining America and being anti-American, some nut actually loaded his car with guns and is driving to San Francisco. Thank God they caught him in Oakland before he could get there, driving to San Francisco to walk into their offices and wipe them all out because Glenn Beck said they were a danger to this country. Words have consequences. And when you don't say anything about it, you are encouraging that kind of violent talk and ultimately violent action. 866-55-PRESS. We'll be right back. We're going to talk to Zoe Carpenter from The Nation coming up in the next segment.
Seen on Free Speech TV and online on TawkrTV. This is The Bill Press Show.
It is possible to read the history of this country as one long struggle to extend the liberties established in our Constitution to everyone in America. In other words, who, according to our laws and culture, gets to be considered a person? The law creates legal personhood, and movements create law and change culture. So, how have the courts passed laws to shape our culture? That history goes way back before Citizens United. 1819, Dartmouth College versus Woodward, Supreme Court case. Turned a corporate charter from a government-granted charter to a contract. This ruling gave corporations standing within the Constitution. 1886, Santa Clara County versus Southern Pacific Railroad. Though the court did not rule on corporate personhood, the decision was subsequently cited as a precedent to hold that a private corporation is entitled to the same 14th Amendment rights of due process and equal protection as human beings. This makes it impossible for us to make laws that treat local businesses any differently than giant multinational corporations, even if their business practices are deemed to be harmful to workers, the environment and communities, or if they have a history of violating the law. Hale versus Henkel, 1906. The court granted corporations the Fourth Amendment search and seizure protection. Dodge versus Ford Motor Company, 1919. The Michigan Supreme Court says the business corporation is organized and carried on primarily for the profit of the stockholders. Stockholder primacy is established. The purpose of the corporation, according to the court, is no longer to serve the public good, as it had been. It is now to maximize profit for shareholders above all else. Pennsylvania Coal Company versus Mahon, 1922. Corporations get the Fifth Amendment takings clause, meaning if you pass a regulation that impacts a corporation's ability to make a profit, that is deemed a taking, and they can sue for the right to future profits lost. This creates a chilling effect, and local and state governments become much more hesitant to pass laws in the public interest for fear that corporations can claim loss of potential profits that cities and states will be on the hook to pay. Buckley versus Vallejo, 1976. The Supreme Court rules that spending money to influence elections is protected under the First Amendment, in effect saying that money is speech. Citizens United versus Federal Election Commission, 2010.
Today, the Supreme Court of Chief Justice John Roberts declared that because of the alchemy of its 19th century predecessors in deciding that corporations had all the rights of people, any restrictions on how these corporate beings spend their money on political advertising are unconstitutional.
The court's ruling threatens to undermine the integrity of elected institutions across the nation. It's a rejection of the common sense of the American people.
On your radio, on TV, and online. This is The Bill Press Show.
11 minutes before the top of the hour this Thursday morning, February 6th. You have heard me say many, many times that as a proud liberal, my Bible is The Nation magazine. Been a subscriber for many years. TheNation.com is where you can find it. Sign up yourself. They are on top of every important issue with a good progressive outlook on it and take on those issues, especially lately on NSA and the out-of-control spying on every American on the part of NSA, sadly defended by President Obama. One of the reasons the nations have been so good on that issue is the work of reporter Zoe Carpenter, who joins us on our newsline this morning. Hi, Zoe. Good to have you with us.
Thanks for having me.
So the latest is there seems to be this absolute obsession with Edward Snowden. And so unable to get Snowden because he's got asylum in Russia, now they're suggesting that they're going to go after reporters who wrote this story and accuse and file criminal charges against them. Is this serious?
Well, we're hearing the demonization of reporters coming from a few people in Congress and from some intelligence officials. I think it's important to say off the bat that there's been no announcement by the Justice Department or the White House. But in a hearing the other day, the chairman of the Intelligence Committee, so this is the guy who is in charge of overseeing the intelligence community in the House, Mike Rogers, was questioning James Comey, the director of the FBI, and he sort of pioneered a new question, which was, are these materials stolen, the Snowden documents? And of course, James Comey said yes. And he said, well, if they're stolen and journalists are selling them, doesn't that make them guilty of selling stolen property, and isn't that a crime? So that raises very serious First Amendment questions.
And Mike Rogers, right, indicates that he believes this and certainly is in a position to follow through. I mean, he's not the Attorney General, but he could influence the Justice Department.
Well,
right?
And certainly, regardless of, I don't know how much influence he has over the Justice Department. He's a pretty staunch Republican. I don't think he has much influence in the Obama administration, but regardless of the actual practical legal outcome of these kinds of threats, the threats themselves matter. We've heard lots of journalists and editors describe the culture of fear that has developed, certainly post 9/11 and in the Obama administration, especially for national security reporters. And this is just part of that, and it certainly chills the atmosphere for them.
Now, President Obama gave this big speech, at the Justice Department 2 or 3 weeks ago now, I guess, long anticipated, announcing some, I thought, just mini tweaks to the program. But even as weak as they are, has there been any follow-through, and what's going to happen? Is Congress doing anything about reforming NSA?
Congress is certainly considering a couple of measures. The USA Freedom Act is something that Democrat Patrick Leahy in the Senate and Republicans, Representative Sensenbrenner in the House are working on. And that has some traction. It's got a long road ahead because we have resistance from the chairs of the intelligence committees in both chambers of Congress. I think there are really serious questions that we should be asking about whether Congress can, in fact, perform effective oversight. I think one of the things the Snowden revelations have showed us is that so far they haven't been able to do that. Even Dianne Feinstein, who is one of the NSA's greatest champions, has been surprised and angered by some of these revelations. And so if she doesn't even know everything that's going on, that raises a lot of questions.
Has the White House indicated its support or opposition to the Leahy-Sensenbrenner bill?
No, it hasn't. That's actually an interesting point, and they tried to drill down on that in the hearing and got some squirmy answers there.
Squirmy answers from the White House, which tells me they don't support it. And I can't believe that President Obama has been such a staunch defender of the NSA, particularly when he was such a severe critic of the NSA when he was a United States Senator.
Right. Yeah, there certainly was a shift. And, part of that probably has to do with the insularity of the Beltway culture once you're in the White House. And I think there really has been a profound shift since 9/11 in the way that we talk about fear and risk. And I think those things do really have an effect if we're so worried about terrorism. I think... I think that kind of rhetoric has been very powerful.
Well, even after September 11, the Constitution remains, one would hope. Zoe, run out of time, too bad, but thank you so much for joining us this morning, getting up early for us. Thanks, Zoe.
Thanks for having me.
Zoe Carpenter from The Nation, thenation.com.
This is the Bill Press Show.
So this is my computer.
This is your computer. Let's go on the internet.
Let's go. Click it.
Yes.
Okay.
I cursor in between the R and the E. Pressing dot, I want you to just push the area.
She's gonna love me all over again.
That's it. Jamaica, here you go.
Here we go.
Good job.
Thank you. Thank you. And I did it by myself. Feel smarter.
So, I'm kind of new here, but I've noticed a trend. My human does this funny thing where she goes around and gets all my toys, and then she hides them in that basket by the door. But it's always the same basket, and it's always in the same place. And then she acts so surprised when I find them, but, she's putting them in the same basket. Again. It's like, hello? That's where you put it last time. You were the worst at hide and go seek.
All right. I know this isn't any fun to talk about, but we should. Okay. So who's going to do what?
I'll pack the dead batteries.
Great.
I'll only put what I don't need into a duffel bag.
Perfect. That's totally unhelpful.
No problem.
Meanwhile, I will try to comfort everyone by speaking in a calm voice.
And I'll try to get the generator going without any gas.
Oh, let's not forget the cell phones, which probably won't work.
Right.
And who is going to handle supplies?
I can forget to do a list for us.
Thanks, pal.
Well, I think we couldn't be any less prepared. I'm proud of you guys.
Talk to your kids about who to call, where to meet, what to pack. Visit ready.gov/kids for tips and information.
Hey, thanks for stopping by. You know, I followed your character since the first episode. I'm a big fan. Big fan.
Thank you.
And listen, your storyline, it makes for incredible TV drama. Thing is, your drug use is very adult content. Too adult for the kids. So I'm gonna have to block you.
Oh, man.
Yeah. Well, have a good one.
You're a nice lady.
This is the Bill Press Show.
In the next hour, Congressman George Miller from California and Cindy Boren from the Washington Post on Sochi. Peter.
One of the rules of the road when you're out driving is if you ever see somebody flash their lights at you, that's sometimes they're warning you that a police officer might be hiding or a speed trap or something like that. And up until now, it's against the law. Like, you're not allowed to do that. Well, a federal judge in Missouri ruled that under the First Amendment, that activity is protected, and police officers can no longer penalize you or pull you over for warning another driver about their presence.
Free speech.
Free speech, baby.
All right, flash your lights, man. Help out your fellow drivers. I love it.
This is the Bill Press Show.
You wouldn't let money just blow out of your house. So when your AC or heater is on, make sure the doors, windows, and fireplace flue are shut tight. If you're headed out, turn down the AC or lower the heat by 10 degrees. And always keep your water heater set at 120. A little bit of common sense goes a long way. Get more great tips at energysaver.gov.
So, I'm kind of new here, but I've noticed a trend. My human does this funny thing where she goes around and gets all my toys, and then she hides them in that basket by the door. You know, but it's always the same basket, and it's always in the same place. And then she acts so surprised when I find them, but, you know, she's putting them in the same basket. Again. It's like, hello, that's where you put it last time. You were the worst at hide and go seek.
Hey, good morning, friends and neighbors. Welcome to the program, The Bill Press Show, this Thursday, February 6th. Here we are in our nation's capital on Capitol Hill, keeping our eye on what's going on here, bringing you the news of the day and taking your comments. We're here on Free Speech TV. You got a satellite dish, and where to find us, DirecTV or the Dish Network. And we're here on our video stream, TawkrTV, TawkrTV, youtube.com/TawkrTV. Give us your comments. Give us a call at 866-55-PRESS. Give us your comments on Twitter at BP Show and on Facebook at facebook.com/Bill Press Show. Things you're going to want to talk about today. Number one, President Obama is just one of those who has sent his congratulations to CVS for their big announcement yesterday that as of October 1, they are going to stop selling cigarettes and tobacco products in all of their 7,600 drugstores across the country. It'll cost them $2 billion in sales, but they say it's just not right to be selling those cigarettes when they paint themselves as healthy places and places for people to get healthy again. They are absolutely right. Good for them. Jay Leno ends his 22-year reign at NBC tonight. Last night of The Tonight Show, he'll turn the baton over, of course, hand it over to Jimmy Fallon. And today is the prayer breakfast here in Washington, D.C. Yes, the president and the vice president will both attend and sit down in public prayer with religious leaders, a clear violation of the separation of church and state. Thomas Jefferson and James Madison would never have agreed to attend that function. And finally, a woman in a town hall with a congressman out in Oklahoma says that President Obama should be executed, and that idiot congressman does nothing but stand there and grin when she says it. All of that coming up right here this morning on The Bill Press Show.
This is The Bill Press Show.
Don't look at me. Your hair's a bit frizzy today. Oh, you should pick that up. Oh, you're such a dork, loser. Here, let me help you with that. Oops.
Every day, kids witness bullying.
Oh, look. Your crush is looking at you. Poor you.
They want to help, but don't know how.
See, no one here's gonna help you, because no one
Teach your kids how to be more than a bystander. Visit stopbullying.gov.
If you drive buzzed, it could cost you around $10,000. You'll face major legal fees, major fines, and steep insurance penalties. You could lose everything. Nothing kills a buzz like getting pulled over for buzz driving, because buzz driving is drunk driving.
When some people struggle with their mortgage payments, they become frozen, petrified. Not knowing what to do, they do nothing. But the people who take action are far more likely to get the most positive outcome. Making home affordable is a free government program. Call now to talk one-on-one with a housing expert about the options that are right for you. Real help, real answers, right now.
Here at the GED Pep Talk Center, we have pep talkers standing by to get you motivated for your GED diploma. Text the name Terry to 69222 for a sympathetic pep talk.
You show people what you really are.
Or for a gentle pep talk, text the name Deborah.
You know you're going to make people very proud of you.
And if that's not enough, text the name Danny for an extreme pep talk.
Prove everyone wrong. Show them you're the boss.
Get your GED pep talk and find free GED classes. Text the name of the person you want a pep talk from to 69222.
Did you see the world differently? Did you celebrate the victory?
So today, I state clearly and with conviction America's commitment to seek the peace and security of a world without nuclear weapons.
Did you stand up against our greatest threat? Change the world.
broadcasting around the nation, on your radio, on your TV, and online. This is The Bill Press Show.
CVS says, hey, we're all about making people healthy, so we're not going to sell cigarettes anymore. Good for them. Hey, good morning, everybody. What do you say? It is Thursday, February 6th, and this is the Bill Press Show coming to you live all across this great country of ours, coast to coast, on your local progressive talk radio station. Welcome to the program. Coast to coast on Free Speech TV. If you've got a satellite dish, you can find us on DirecTV, and worldwide on our video stream at TawkrTV, youtube.com/Tawker. Spell it right, TAWKRTV. So good to see you today. Good to welcome you back, and particularly happy today to welcome back to the studio, I think her first visit in the year 2014, Cindy Boren from the Washington Post, sports blogger. What the hell took you so long?
Happy New Year.
Happy New Year. That's right. Hi,
no,
Cindy.
it's too late to say that, but it's good morning. It's great to be back.
Good morning. Nice to see you, too. I know you've been busy, and
a little bit.
You haven't neglected. We didn't feel neglected, but it's just good to see you. And you know the whole team here, Peter Ogburn and Elisa Murphy.
Hey. Good morning.
With Alicia Cruz there, standing by, because you can join the conversation by giving us a call at 866-55-PRESS. Alicia will talk to you, get you on the air. Cyprian Bolding has us looking good on the video cam, our videographer extraordinaire. I love this CVS story. You know, there's one across the street, and I'm there often, and I'll be even happier to go in there now, you know, because I think this is a real statement for, here's what we're all about, right? We're all about making people look good and feel better and get better. And
yeah, they're branching out from being a drugstore into some sort of health spa.
Which is what drugstores, like,
right?
Yeah. Health clinics. They want to be known as sort of health clinics.
Okay, I'm going to go with spa.
Yeah, I like health spa. I do like health spa.
New branding and stuff, but it's I get my flu shot there, right, at the CVS.
Will the healthy things that you get from CVS counteract the bread that you're eating from Subway?
Well, at least Subway's not selling cigarettes. I haven't been, and neither is CVS for a while. But so Jay Carney said very interesting yesterday. This came up at our White House briefing, and Jay Carney said it was particularly important to him and to President Obama.
The president is, like a reformed smoker, but, you know, and I think he recognizes, like everyone who's quit recognizes, it's not an easy thing to do, but it's the right thing to do for your own health, for your family, and for the nation's health.
And Jay Carney said, I didn't realize he had been a smoker, that we know about President Obama, that when he was smoking, he used to buy his cigarettes at CVS. So it really hit home.
Where else, you know, I mean, you're in the city.
Yeah. Yeah, right.
And the gas station, you know, the gas station and CVS, right? 7,600
stores nationwide, and I love the fact that $2 billion in sales they will forgo, but I think they made up for that in publicity, in good publicity, you know, for doing this. So, but we got lots and lots to talk about. Cindy here with us for the first half hour, then we'll be joined by Congressman George Miller from California, and top of the next hour, Congressman Mike Michaud from Maine. Yes, some good company today here.
Oh, wow.
How about it? Get right to it. But first,
this is the Full Court Press.
Charles Dickens once wrote, quote, "I conjure to my friends on no account to make me the subject of any monument, memorial, or testimonial whatsoever." And so today, on what would have been his 202nd birthday, a statue will be erected in England commemorating Charles Dickens. He asked that no monument be put up.
But finally they waited how long?
So they gave him 202 years. Today would have been his 202nd birthday. So they said, all right, we've given to your request and your wishes for this long. Now we're going to break it.
Well,
so
it's kind of a big deal. So I think it's modest of him to have said that.
And it's not like he's going to care. He's been gone long enough.
I'd rather see a monument to Charles Dickens than some of these half-assed politicians that we build monuments to.
Absolutely
name
true.
Post offices for and buildings for.
And airports that we fly out of.
And airports.
Wolf of Wall
You
Street
mean National Airport?
Yeah, that's the one. Wolf of Wall Street co-stars and Oscar nominees Leonardo DiCaprio and Jonah Hill are going to be joining forces again. A new movie coming out will focus on the Atlanta Olympics bombing drama called The Ballad of Richard Jewell. Fox acquired the rights to the article that was originally written in the 1997 Vanity Fair magazine. Hill, who's going to play Richard Jewell. Remember Richard Jewell, the man who was falsely accused of setting off the bomb in Atlanta. And Leonardo DiCaprio is going to play the attorney who represented Mr. Jewell.
That's enough to make a movie about? That big a deal, I didn't think, but okay.
It's an interesting story, but
It was, I think the drama and the people that were falsely accusing him and the way it became a media, it was really one of the first media storms that sort of falsely, pointed the finger at someone. So maybe that's where they go with it.
Yeah.
Maybe it'll be a short movie.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, exactly. And yesterday,
unlike Wolf of Wall Street.
Oh my God! Yeah, exactly. Yesterday, the Seattle Seahawks turned out for their Super Bowl parade through the streets of Seattle. 700,000 people showed up. I love this statistic, by the way. Seattle school districts reported that 565 teachers were absent, and of the district's 51,000 students, 13,523 were marked as absent.
What was wrong with the rest of them?
Yeah, exactly. They actually showed up for school.
Well, Pete Carroll said they should have called school off, and I agree.
I agree. I absolutely agree. Yeah, it's a big deal.
No. Yeah, absolutely. Good. Well, I want to talk to Sochi, but let's start right there. Were you surprised by? Seahawks just crushed.
I didn't think it would be a crushing, but I thought the Seahawks would win. I like defense over, especially the later the season progresses. I like defense over offense, and I also think I had watched the Broncos play the Colts earlier in the year when the Colts beat them in Indianapolis, and the Colts got to Peyton Manning, and that's if you flush him out of the pocket. Throw him off his game, and he can't hear Omaha because the crowd's so loud. He can't recover. He couldn't recover.
No,
and that's a really good defense too.
Yeah. And from the very, very first play of the game,
Doink.
right? It was kind of like, right?
Yeah, you kind of had that
tone.
feeling. Well,
that's the definition of what
and then the first play of the second half as well with another touchdown in 12 seconds.
That was pretty exciting. Yeah.
Once you get taken out of it mentally, it is so tough to come back, especially when you're as locked in as Peyton Manning is.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And
that first play,
he can be thrown off, and when he's thrown off, he doesn't adjust.
Right.
He's not. I hesitate to make the comparison, but why not? He's not Brady. Brady will adjust,
right.
And other quarterbacks will adjust, but he won't.
All right, so you are the sports blogger for the Washington Post. What the hell are you doing here in Washington, D.C.? Why aren't you in Sochi?
I don't want to be in Sochi. I don't
blame you.
I prefer to do football and basketball and other sports and let the Olympics come. Especially I'm not into the Winter Olympics.
Okay.
And I really don't want to be in Sochi.
I was just going to say, is it Winter Olympics or is it Sochi? And I have not seen. I kind of really like the Olympics. I try to get interested in them. Right?
Because
I don't even have to try hard.
They're not real sports fans. You know what I'm saying? Therefore, they're a
you.
different. They're spotainment. They're sports entertainment.
Okay. Yeah. Why the hell did they have them schedule these in Sochi? I have not seen one positive story out of Sochi. All
Bill,
I hear about
the
are the toilets and the anti-gays and the
dogs.
security problems and the shooting the stray dogs, and you can't flush the toilet paper. I mean, what's going on? I mean, is
the Olympics
mistake?
At some point, and this will probably never happen, but I hope that at some point someone looks at the way that these games are always handed out, and it's the same way with World Cup too. But there's always corruption involved, with who gets the bids. And, Sochi is not really a winter capital.
I didn't realize that, by the way.
Palm trees. They have palm trees.
They have palm
in
trees.
the street. Yeah.
And I know they have mountains, and there's snow on the mountains, and they can make snow, but it's kind of odd. And, these are the games that are the sort of monument to Putin. And
yeah.
Wow.
Most of the snow there is manufactured snow, which I just find.
I'm sort of annoyed by all the look at the tweets from the reporters. Look at how bad we have it. I never really pay attention to people. I think, you're in Sochi covering the Olympics. You know what? I understand that it's bad, but nobody wants to hear the media gripe.
Yeah, right.
I'm far more concerned with the families of the athletes. Some of them aren't going because of the possibility of terrorism. I mean, I think that's a terrible thing when you work as hard as these guys do to make this, 1 or 2 shots. You don't get that many shots at the Olympics.
Yeah.
And then to not be able to have your family there is just, I think that's really sad.
No, you haven't mentioned the most important issue with the Olympics, which is Chobani, okay?
Oh no.
Now, I've got my Chobani this morning, but our American athletes don't have their Chobani because the Russians won't let it into the country. I mean, so they got 5,000 little packages of Chobani, whatever these are called, right? Sitting in JFK, they can't leave the country because Russia says you haven't filled out the right paperwork or something.
I predict that will be taken care of soon.
I would hope so.
I mean, there's so many on the list of things they need to address. That's kind of far down the.
Oh, it's not for me. To me, it's number one. But you would here. This is
more
just
Chobani here for you.
That's right.
What do you care? Go to JFK.
It's just another example of how they've screwed up this.
Well, they're
Russia has just
yeah. I mean, now they're saying that there's a danger in toothpaste on flights that are coming in directly into the country.
This is jinx.
And then
I'm worried about
Stacey St. Clair,
game.
one of the reporters, was tweeting a picture of her water, and she called the front desk, and they said, "Well, don't splash the water on your face because there's something dangerous." And I mean, the water looks like a urine sample.
Yeah.
And
no, I saw pictures of it yesterday.
I think we've all been to foreign countries where you brush your teeth with Evian. But at some point you've got to shower.
Yeah.
And, the other thing about the hotel, you're not in your hotel room when you cover the Olympics. I mean, you're there, you walk in, you sleep, you shower, you change your clothes, maybe. And some people don't. And, you're in the Olympic, you're either out at the venues watching the competition or you're in the media center. People hang out at the media center all the time.
Okay, so make me feel good. Tell me something good about the Olympics, about these Olympics, and tell me, I don't mean to embarrass you, but give me the name of a couple of Americans we ought to be thinking
Shaun White.
about.
You're not a snowboard enthusiast?
Shaun White, but is he the one who was injured? Is going to be?
He dropped out of one of the two.
He dropped out of one. Yeah,
there was some controversy over they've added a new snowboard competition in the slope style, and there was some question about whether the course, the thing. I'm not really into snowboarding.
No.
Whether it is actually dangerous, snowboarding is dangerous, but they had to change.
People have been injured on.
They had
this
to alter
slope.
the course, the slope a little bit.
There's been a lot of criticism about how that course has been put together and been constructed, and he even said the course isn't ready to be raced on, and that's why he dropped out.
Right.
Right.
So and he wants his half pipe.
Yeah.
Gold medal.
Do we have a strong showing? A strong team?
I think we do. I think so. The Winter Olympics are always a little bit different for the U.S., but I think they do. I think they'll certainly be competitive. There's if for nothing else, because of the sheer numbers, they send a huge number of people to the Olympics.
Right.
I mean, the U.S. team is, I think, by far the largest there, the largest contingency. So, yeah.
I mean, the team that I'm really rooting for is the Jamaican curling team.
Bobsled.
I'm so sorry.
I do love the curling. Don't go near the curling. The curling is awesome. But
the outfits
the Norwegians. Their outfits are fabulous.
Oh, it's the Norwegians that have the outfits. Jamaican team that had
They have the bobsled team.
Right, the bobsled and the Norwegians. That's the curling team, right?
That is the curling. Yes.
That's why you like them.
Well, I like curling anyway, just because it's fun to watch people. Take brooms and make
sweeping.
This giant rock go down. It appeals to the German side of my heritage because they're very clean people.
Yes.
And the Norwegian. It looks like they're wearing their pajamas. They got all this attention the last time because they wore these sort of Argyle design pants, and typically curlers wear
black, they look like they should be helping you maybe at Best Buy or something.
Right.
And they showed up in these sort of Argyle wild print pants, and now they took it to the extreme and have the whole
go big or
suit,
go home.
The whole suit.
Olympics.
Yeah.
So the opening ceremonies tomorrow night, the First Lady's not going to be there, the President's not going to be there, Putin will be there, Angela Merkel's not going to be. I mean, it's basic, and even
Billie Jean's
Billie
not
Jean
going,
King can't go because of an illness in her
issue.
family. So it's sort of like.
Well, the upside.
I'm starting to feel sorry for Putin.
No, you're not.
Yeah, you're not.
No, I'm not.
No, you're
Actually.
not. The upside of it is, I think the opening ceremonies are going to be narrated by Peter Dinklage, the Game of Thrones.
Really?
Yeah, that's what I heard.
Oh, wow.
So there's, that's a compelling reason to watch.
I would watch that.
After London, I think anything is kind of anticlimactic when you're talking about an opening ceremony, but it'll be interesting to see. And they were still working on the cauldron 2 days ago, and it's
yeah.
Everything. That's the thing about the Olympics. It's always just a facade. That people think this Olympic Village is something that's built to last. It's just a facade.
This is what I think is going to be really, really interesting: is how the media decides to cover it, because I'm sure that.
Well,
the opening ceremonies and a lot of the things that Russia wants us to see will be front and center. But if they just step just a couple of feet outside of that comfort zone, they might see some real stories.
Well,
there.
the dogs.
Yeah.
The New York Times wrote about the dogs today.
Right.
They're saying, "Oh, we're rounding them up and taking them to a shelter." Well, that was after they kind of got caught just shooting them.
Yeah.
And there was another photo I saw, right along the Black Sea. There's a lovely concourse and promenade for people to walk on. And then there's a sort of area right next to it where people are skating and running and working out, athletes, right? And there are, manholes there, right? Sewer openings. Well, they don't have covers.
Yeah.
So if you're, zooming along there on your roller skates or, your skateboard or whatever.
By the way, that could be a brand new Olympic competition.
That would be fun.
Dodging the manholes.
That would be fun.
Yeah.
So it's there are problems.
Yeah, and at some point, I think the media is going to have to make the transition.
Yeah.
If they want anybody to watch, from just dump to.
But this is where we get into the issue of what NBC has done with the Olympics, which is to make them into entertainment and not a sporting event. You don't need to watch if you're a real sports enthusiast, you don't really need to watch the 2 hours, 3 hours of primetime coverage. You just turn it on at 10:30, on the East Coast, and you watch the last 30 minutes, and you'll see whoever the big winner was of the day because they save it for the last 30 minutes. Yeah. And I hate the way they package that.
Your thoughts on the Olympics? Cindy Boren certainly has a whole package on them. We're hearing it this morning at 866-55-PRESS. We'll be right back.
This is the Bill Press Show.
A single ember that escapes from a wildfire can travel more than a mile. That single ember can ignite and destroy your home or even your community. You can't control where that ember will land, only what happens when it does. Get Fire Adapted now at fireadapted.org.
Columbine, Virginia Tech,
Tucson,
Aurora,
Fort Hood, Oak Creek,
Newtown.
Newtown,
Newtown.
Newtown.
How many more? How many more? How many more colleges? How many more classrooms?
How many more movie theaters?
How many more houses of faith?
How many more shopping malls?
How many more street corners?
How many more?
How many more?
Enough. 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 Enough.
Demand a plan.
Right now. As a mom.
As a dad. As a friend. As a husband.
As a wife.
As an American.
As an American.
As an American.
As a human being.
For the children of Sandy Hook.
Demand a plan. No more lists of names. It's not too soon.
It's too late.
Now is the time.
Before we all know someone who loved someone on that list.
No more lists.
No more.
Who they might have been. No more.
If we had just done something yesterday. It's time.
We can do better than this.
We can do better than this.
It's time.
It's time.
It's time for our leaders to act.
Demand a plan. Right now.
Right now.
You! Demand it!
Enough.
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 None of us would want to be told we can't marry the person we love. As Americans, we believe in freedom. That's what I fought for as a Marine, and that's what we believe in as Republicans. Freedom means freedom for everyone. I didn't used to understand the importance of same-sex marriage, but after learning my brother was gay, I wanted the same rights for him. He was the best man at my wedding, and I want to be the best man at his. It's only fair that Calvin should have the freedom to marry the person he loves, too.
It's time for marriage.
At Earth Justice, we defend the environment in the courtroom. Join our fight. When you take a seat, you take a stand. Earth Justice, because the Earth needs a good lawyer.
So, I'm kind of new here, but I've noticed a trend. My human does this funny thing where she goes around and gets all my toys, and then she hides them in that basket by the door. You know, but it's always the same basket, and it's always in the same place. And then she acts so surprised when I find them, but, you know, she's putting them in the same basket. Again. It's like, hello, that's where you put it last time. You were the worst at hide and go seek.
This is the Bill Press Show.
Congressman George Miller joining us next. And Cindy Boren, it's so good to see you. We are just about out of time. All right, so let me just ask, the Wizards.
How about those Wizards?
How about them?
Well, they're kind of above, and then they'll sink back down to 500 above, and they're flirting with 500. But they're exciting. There was an exciting game last night against the Spurs here in D.C.
Spurs won.
Double overtime.
I just have to point out that the Spurs won.
The Spurs won. The Spurs are a very good team.
Very good team.
You got to just be happy though that Popovich played his stars, right?
Yeah,
he's been known to send them home.
Yeah, the game of double overtime went till 2 o'clock in the morning, and Peter was there until the very end. So,
of course he was.
Yeah, right.
Spurs boy.
Yeah. Cindy, thanks so much for coming in, all right?
Thank you. My pleasure.
All right, we'll see you at the opening ceremonies tomorrow night.
This is the Bill Press Show.
So this is my computer.
This is your computer. Let's go on the internet.
Let's go. Click it.
Yes.
Okay.
I cursor in between the R and the E. Pressing down, I want you to just push the area.
She's gonna love me all over again.
That's it. Jamaica, here you go.
Here we go.
Good job.
Thank you. Thank you. And I did it by myself. Feel smarter.
So, I'm kind of new here, but I've noticed a trend. My human does this funny thing where she goes around and gets all my toys, and then she hides them in that basket by the door. You know, but it's always the same basket, and it's always in the same place. And then she acts so surprised when I find them, but, you know, she's putting them in the same basket. Again. It's like, hello, that's where you put it last time. You were the worst at hide and go seek.
Same time next week?
Well, of course.
Put away a few bucks, feel like $1 million. For free tips to help you save, go to Feed the Pig.
All right. I know this isn't any fun to talk about, but we should. Okay. So who's going to do what?
I'll pack the dead batteries.
Great.
I'll only put what I don't need into a duffel bag.
Perfect. That's totally unhelpful.
No problem.
Meanwhile, I will try to comfort everyone by speaking in a calm voice.
And I'll try to get the generator going without any gas.
Oh, let's not forget the cell phones, which probably won't work.
Right.
And who is going to handle supplies?
I can forget to do a list for us.
Thanks, pal.
Well, I think we couldn't be any less prepared. I'm proud of you guys.
Talk to your kids about who to call, where to meet, what to pack. Visit ready.gov/kids for tips and information.
Hey, thanks for stopping by. You know, I followed your character since the first episode. I'm a big fan, big fan.
Thank you.
And listen, your storyline, it makes for incredible TV drama. Thing is, your drug use is very adult content. Too adult for the kids. So I'm gonna have to block you.
Oh, man.
Yeah. Well, have a good one.
You're a nice lady.
On your radio, on TV, and online. This is The Bill Press Show.
Here we go at 33 minutes after the hour. The Bill Press Show. We're coming to you live from our nation's capital, brought to you today by the Laborers International Union of North America. Good men and women of the Laborers Union under President Terry O'Sullivan, building a better America. You bet. And that's their website, LIUNA, L-I-U-N-A, LIUNA, They are good friends of this program, and there's no better friend of the laborers and other working men and women in this country than my good friend from California, Congressman George Miller, joining us in studio. Congressman, nice to see you this morning.
Thank you.
How are you?
Good.
You know, I am proud of the fact that way back in your first run for political office, when you were running for the state senate, Carol and I, young political activists from San Francisco, went across the bay to Point Richmond and walked precincts for George Miller. He went to the state senate, and now and then on to Congress, where you've been for 40 years.
Yes.
And this year you announced you're stepping down. Why?
It's been 40 years. It's been 40 years. I've been flying back and forth across the country every weekend, and I've had a great run. I love the job. I'm really proud of what I was able to accomplish. But there's other things I'd like to do. I'd obviously like to continue to follow my passions with labor, with the environment, and certainly with education, but in a different form. It's been 40 years here. Yeah.
What are you most proud of in the I mean, you have accomplished a lot, and I was proud to write a column about you and Henry Waxman this week, which I think are two of the most effective and successful members of Congress and hardest working that I've known. I think the American people have known. But of all of those things that you've done, what are you really most?
Well,
proud
really, I started. I would say at the beginning of my career, I had an opportunity to write. Which at that time was called Education for All Handicapped Children, which is now Individuals with Disabilities Education Act, IDEA. And when I first got here, along with Tom Harkin, and then at the end of what I consider the end of my career, I was able to be one of the principal authors of the Affordable Care Act. And in 1974, when I was running, I ran on the National Health Care Plan and ending the war in Vietnam. And when I started thinking about leaving, when I was at the signing ceremony in the White House when President Obama signed the Affordable Care Act, I thought, wow, I'm standing on top of Mount Everest here. There's not much up from here, and it just really sort of was
Yeah,
that was a big event for me to have that.
That was
bill
a magic
signed
moment. I was there in the East Room.
It was.
With
it
the
was.
press corps that day.
This was a 100-year argument, and it looks like maybe we'll be arguing it now for another 110 years or something. But it was a big event, and it's a huge event for Americans' families.
And do you think that Democrats will, in 2014, will be able to go out and talk about the Affordable Care Act and run on it, or will they be running away from it?
I think they can talk about it, and they are able to talk about it in some very almost conservative terms if they want. This is about freedom. This is about families being able to really follow their dreams, to know that their kids are going to be taken care of, and it's about economic security. Never ever again will you lose your health insurance if a traumatic event hits your family, and right now, health costs are the number one cause of bankruptcy, because without this insurance, people put it on their credit card, they can't manage it, and all of a sudden they're losing their home. And that just isn't going to happen anymore. So it's huge for economic security for families, for people who want to start a business. As a CBO report just reports, it's going to allow people a lot of flexibility. If you have a child with disabilities, maybe you want to work a few less hours, but if you work a few less hours, you're going to lose your health care. No, that won't happen to you in the future. So it's a big deal.
It was unusual to see a president of the United States. They always have their honored guests in the gallery, whom they recognize. But last Tuesday night, the president recognized two members of Congress who were sitting side by side, you and Senator Tom Harkin, on the issue of the minimum wage. I mean, you've been a champion of that too your entire career in Congress. Are we going to see some action this year?
Yes, you are. You are. The research now on the minimum wage is really spun completely around. We now see that it's very beneficial to communities. We see if you have a state where you have a higher minimum wage and a state where you have a lower minimum wage, the higher minimum wage, small businesses are hiring more people. Cities now are understanding you can't have a thriving, vibrant city on the backs of poor people, poor workers. And so they're raising the minimum wage. More money is on Main Street. These people have to spend this money because they're essentially low income, so they have to pay the doctor's bills. They have to put gas in their car, groceries on their table, education supplies for their kids. So it really starts to change an economy, and that money generates that economic activity. The old studies which said, oh, this means everybody's going to lay it off and you're taking jobs from teenagers. Well, the vast majority of minimum wage workers are over 20, and many of them are providing a major part of the wage in that family. So it's a different demographics, and I think American families that went through the Great Recession may have somebody with a college degree that's working at the minimum wage, and they're asking themselves, how can my son or daughter live on $7.25 an hour?
Right. Well, ever since my days with Jerry Brown, way back, right? I've heard this argument that if you raise the minimum wage, it's going to cost Americans jobs. We're going to lose all these jobs. And I still hear, it's never been proven true, but I still hear it today from Speaker John Boehner. And so
they're stuck in the past. I mean, they're just stuck in the past. Their conservative nature hasn't allowed them to move forward and look at the new evidence and look at the economic studies and look at the cities that have increased the minimum wage: Seattle, San Francisco, San Diego, San Jose, just on the West Coast. New Jersey by initiative with the opposition of Governor Christie. People understand. People are making $15, $20, $30 an hour say, how the hell can you live on $7.25 an hour? It's just, you can't do it. And there's that empathy. And that's why in the polls, across all regions, across all parties, people support increasing the minimum wage. The Republicans are going to vote for it. They just don't know it yet, but they're going to vote for
it. Well, good. Let's get that message out. You're listening, John Boehner? He's probably down at Pete's Diner right now, right? I hope I hope they've got the show on the air down there. So I have to ask you about. I mean, you know the ratings, the poll ratings for members of Congress right now, and you know that this 113th, it looks like, is going to be the most do nothing Congress ever. It must be frustrating for somebody who wants to get things done like you. It
is
to be working with these guys.
But and the problem is, the actions of a few take everybody down. So the Tea Party can create gridlock, but like gridlock in traffic, if you're the 400th car down the street, you're still stuck.
Yeah, right.
The guys are brawling in the middle of the intersection. You're still stuck. And people are angry. They expect the Congress to respond to the needs of this country. They expect us, we still can't get an infrastructure bill. There's no disagreement about how far we're falling behind in the basic physical infrastructure of this country, in highways and roads and bridges and airports and ports for the new generation of ships and new generation of airplanes. And America's not there. I mean, you travel overseas, you just see what's going on in those areas, and you can see why people are shifting their freight routes to different ports to not come to the United States in the new modern ships because we don't have ports that can receive them. Those are jobs. Those are not only construction jobs, but they're jobs in the increased activity. And so the Tea Party has decided that they've really convinced themselves that the government provides no value added. Therefore, if you get rid of it, nothing lost. It's not a problem. It's just a denial of American history.
Yeah.
The government has been a catalyst for basic fundamental research. If you look at the book, The Entrepreneurial State, Steve Jobs was a genius to create the iPhone. He created it out of 8 basic fundamental technologies that were funded by the Department of Defense, Department of Commerce through DARPA and other federal agencies that he assembled and created the iPhone. That's the way it's supposed to work. We were the catalyst for defense that no company could afford to do.
So how do you turn this Congress around?
Well, I think,
I think maybe not this Congress, but Congress around.
Well, I think
because you were there today. If I could just, you were there today when you may not have been in the majority even, but there was an opportunity to get some things done because you had people there who were in between elections, right? Were focusing on problem solving.
I spent a lot of years in the minority. I still got things done. I was able to work with. I worked with John Boehner and George W. Bush to do the education reform of VSEA, No Child Left Behind. I was able to create national parks in California with Jerry Lewis. He was very much opposed to them, but you could still negotiate. You could figure out how to do this. Over and over again, Don Young and I introduced the largest bill to fund Land and Water Conservation Fund. Here's Don Young, as far right as you can get from Alaska, and George Miller from the San Francisco Bay Area, and we got the Hook and Bullet crowd, the wildlife groups, and really preserving America's great natural assets. Today, they don't want any part of it. They want to destroy it. They want to knock it all down.
So, what's the answer? Getting
well, I think they're burning their. I think they're burning the franchise. They're destroying the brand. You see in some polls, 16% of the people identify with the Republican Party. Pollsters tell us when you ask people, are you Republican or Democrat, and they know what you are because they can see how you're registered. Fewer and fewer Republicans are saying I'm a Republican.
Yeah,
when they answer the phone for the polling data. So the brand's taken a big hit, and. The country can't stand still, and I think more and more people are going to realize it. The Republicans have done nothing in the last 3 years in creating jobs. They have done nothing.
Right. And we've also
now they're in a position. Excuse me. They're in a position where you see Cantor says he wants to do something on education. He wants to do something on school choice. He wants to do something. And with the commentators who immediately read the legislation or the ideas of the press conference say, well, they want to appear like they care about families. That's a wonderful agenda. I want to appear that I care about families. Is that politics, or do you really care about families? So their new agenda is let's appear like we're friendly to families.
Yeah, and let's appear like we're reaching out to women and we're reaching out to minorities. And we're right. Yeah. Meanwhile, nothing has changed. A lion in the United States Congress, Congressman George Miller from California's 11th Congressional District. Your questions, your comments, always welcome. He can take it. He's thick-skinned. 866-55-PRESS. We'll be right back.
This is the Bill Press Show.
This is my computer.
This is your computer. Let's go on the internet.
Let's go. Click it.
Yes.
Okay.
I cursor in between the R and the E. Pressing dot, I want you to just push the period.
She's gonna love me all over again.
That's it. Jamaica, here you go.
Here we go.
Good job.
Thank you. Thank you. And I did it by myself. Feel smarter.
So, I'm kind of new here, but I've noticed a trend. My human does this funny thing where she goes around and gets all my toys, and then she hides them in that basket by the door. But it's always the same basket, and it's always in the same place. And then she acts so surprised when I find them, but, she's putting them in the same basket. Again. It's like, hello, that's where you put it last time. You were the worst at hide and go seek.
All right. I know this isn't any fun to talk about, but we should. Okay. So who's going to do what?
I'll pack the dead batteries.
Great.
I'll only put what I don't need into a duffel bag.
Perfect. That's totally unhelpful.
No problem.
Meanwhile, I will try to comfort everyone by speaking in a calm voice.
And I'll try to get the generator going without any gas.
Oh, let's not forget the cell phones, which probably won't work.
Right.
And who is going to handle supplies?
I can forget to do a list for us.
Thanks, pal.
Well, I think we couldn't be any less prepared. I'm proud of you guys.
Talk to your kids about who to call, where to meet, what to pack. Visit ready.gov/kids for tips and information.
Hey, thanks for stopping by. I followed your character since the first episode. I'm a big fan. Big fan.
Thank you.
And listen, your storyline, it makes for incredible TV drama. Thing is, your drug use is very adult content. Too adult for the kids. So I'm gonna have to block you.
Oh, man.
Yeah. Well, have a good one.
You're a nice lady.
On your radio, on TV, and online. This is The Bill Press Show.
Here we go at 12 minutes before the top of the hour. Congressman George Miller in studio with us from California, and we're going to bounce up to the state of Maine with Congressman Michaud at the top of the next hour here. Man, we're honored today. We have a little caucus here, progressive caucus. Peter?
We're on Twitter at BP Show, and PhillyFan99 wanted us to ask you, Congressman Miller, about Alpha House.
Alpha House.
Tell us about Alpha House.
Well, one of the things when I was considering my retirement, I realized I'd been married for 50 years, and for 40 years I've been living in Washington, and 32 of those years I've been living with Chuck Schumer and Dick Durbin. And so I thought maybe it was time to go home. It's been an adventure. We started out in a snowstorm. Congressman Marty Russo from Chicago couldn't drive home in the snowstorm, so he moved into my house, and he never left. He started remodeling and insulating the house and doing all these things. And then Leon Panetta was one of the roommates, along with Sam Gadenson from Connecticut at that time. We've had quite a group of people. Right now, it's Senator Durbin from Illinois and Senator Schumer from New York, and it's been good. Washington is a tough town, and it's nice to be able to go back, and maybe we only chat for 10 or 15 minutes. We all are on different schedules. We go home at different times to our districts, and so it's really worked out for that reason. But it's been a lot of fun. It's been a subject of a lot of jokes and a lot of.
And of course, you've generated your own TV show, right?
Well, that's the
Alpha
theory.
House
But they
on
made it
Amazon.
all Republicans. They can't possibly be having as much fun, and they're talking about all the wrong issues. But other than that, I guess it's a hell of a deal.
Let's say a quick hello to Stacy, Congressman. Stacy's calling from out in Chicago. Hi, Stacy.
Hey, good morning. I just wanted to ask the congressman if the newer Democrats had the same fire that he's had for, like his productive career. Are they a little too worried about re-election like the Republicans?
Yeah, good question. Thanks, Stacy, for the call.
I've thought a lot about that because I thought about my leaving. As I said, I don't believe in the indispensable man theory, but I thought, what's it mean for take all this years of experience and know-how and leave? But I'll tell you what, one of the parts of the equation was This freshman class, this Democratic freshmen, have amazing life stories. They have amazing life experiences. A number of them have held elective office at the state legislative level or at local government. They're combat veterans. They've overcome really a lot of adversity in their lives, and it's really exciting. And as I was campaigning for them, and then when they showed up in the on the first day of Congress to be sworn in, I feel really good. I feel really good about this caucus. They look like America. They have the experiences of so many Americans that my generation doesn't have. It's different. But I think it's really good.
And then there's some of those I'm just thinking who've been there a little while, earning their stripes. Keith Ellison, I mentioned, co-chair of the Progressive Caucus. I was thinking, there's so many. Chris Van Hollen is a frequent guest of ours. Jan Schakowsky from Chicago.
Absolutely,
there's some firebrands.
There's a lot of talent here. There's a lot of talent. The problem is that the Republicans,
Donna Edwards, just thought of her,
under the domination of the Tea Party, will not open up the Congress for legislation because they either want it their way or no way, and you can't run this Congress that way. But this is a pretty creative group of people in the Democratic caucus, and we spent a lot of time figuring out how to move them and move them on issues. And I think you're seeing that on some of the economic issues. I think you're clearly seeing that on the minimum wage. I think the Republicans are embarrassing themselves with not extending unemployment insurance to families that desperately need it, who are looking for work but can't find work. So I'm very optimistic, and of course the leadership of Nancy Pelosi is just unparalleled in a legislative body.
Final question: you speak of Nancy Pelosi. She introduced a constitutional amendment yesterday to do something about public financing for congressional campaigns. How important is that?
It's the most important thing on the national agenda. If you don't get what now the Supreme Court has allowed, anonymous, unlimited money, dark money, if you don't get the dark money out of the campaigns, I don't know how you hold on to a democracy. Because people don't know what they're voting for or against or who they're voting for or against when anonymous money shows up. The candidate's interesting in a congressional seat, but if that candidate has lost control of their campaign, and this money now can overwhelm all of the money you can raise in your district, all of the money you can raise in your district that people give to you in $50 checks, $100, $250, maybe $1,000. Your opponent now opens up with $400,000 or $500,000 in media, and it just keeps happening. And it doesn't matter what the people in the district think because they just swamp their ability to have their voices heard. This is the most dangerous threat, I think, to our democracy. I mean, the Chinese are interesting and the Russians are interesting. A lot of things are interesting. This one's internal, and it's destroying people's participation and local voices being heard about their representatives in the Congress of the United States. And Leader Pelosi is right, and John Sarbanes has done a huge amount of work on this from Maryland. You're going to have to go to a constitutional amendment because every court has sort of protected the rights of rich people to influence elections, but this one went way overboard, even wiping out disclosure. I think the Congress can do the disclosure, but the limits will be more difficult.
Congressman, thank you for such great service to all Americans, to our country. We all live better because of your good work.
That's very nice of you. Thank you so much, Bill.
Right, thanks for coming in. We'll miss you, and I'll be back with a quick word on what the president's up to today.
This is the Bill Press Show.
In the early 20th century, the war to end all wars didn't end war at all. It stoked the fires of change. A traumatized world was ripe for change. The world was ready for modernism. Modernists wanted to forget history, or at least reinterpret it. More than just a style, modernism applied to virtually all forms of creative expression. Innovative artists like Picasso, Escher, Dali, they all started looking at their world differently. Other artists tried painting light itself. These were the Impressionists. Surrealists went a bit further. We had entered the age of the isms: Cubism, Symbolism, Futurism, Constructivism. All these new modern ways of looking at the world blew people away. When it came to architecture, modernists were intrigued by emerging technology. Concrete, glass and steel featured heavily in their buildings. Modernists believed that they could design a better society. Ornamental indulgence was considered a frivolous waste of effort. They thought function should always dictate form, and that mankind's intelligence, creativity and capability for radical thinking should be celebrated. Take the Russian inventor Georgy Krutikov. He suggested an idea for a city held aloft by electrical currents. This at a time when there was barely enough wattage to keep the lights on. Not everything they designed was a resounding success. But you could argue modernism was the single most influential movement of the 20th century. From house music to housewares, tables and chairs to graphic design, all have been created by the aesthetics and ideas of modernism.
Okay, here's a warning. We're about to go into hour number 3. We're going to lose you on Free Speech TV, so we encourage you to shift over to the video stream, TawkrTV, youtube.com/TawkrTV. You're going to want to do that because we have 2 exciting guests in the next hour. Congressman Michaud from Maine is running for governor of Maine. He'll tell us all about it. Democratic congressman. And then a representative from the Sierra Club in to tell us what's wrong with the Keystone Pipeline. They are leading the fight against it. Stay with us for hour number 3.
This is the Bill Press Show.
All right, the president today with the vice president and the first lady will be attending the prayer breakfast this morning at the Washington Hilton. Then he has a meeting this afternoon with the president of Haiti, president of France, coming in next Tuesday, by the way. And our press briefing today with Jay Carney is at noon at the White House. We'll tell you all about that tomorrow. Coming up at the top of the next hour, Congressman Michaud from the state of Maine on what's going on in Congress and about his efforts to become the next governor of the state of Maine. Stay tuned for hour number 3 here on the Bill Press Show.
This is the Bill Press Show. Broadcasting around the nation, on your radio, on your TV, and online. This is The Bill Press Show.
CVS says we are all about health, so we're not going to sell cigarettes anymore starting October 1. Good for them. I hope other national drug chains follow their good example. Good morning, everybody. Here we go. Hour number 3 of The Bill Press Show this Thursday morning, February 6th. Coming to you live from our nation's capital, as always, in our studio right here on Capitol Hill in Washington, D.C., just down the street from the United States Capitol building. We like being here because, you know, we tell members of Congress, House and the Senate, hey, stop by on your way to work. Well, Congressman George Miller from California did in our last hour, and we are very pleased to welcome to the studio at the top of this hour, another congressman from the Hill, another Democratic congressman, Congressman Michaud from the state of Maine. Hey, Congressman, good to see you.
It's good to see you, and good morning.
Thank you, and welcome. And you join our team here, Peter Ogburn and Elisa Murphy.
Hey.
Elisa
good morning.
Cruz there on the phones for taking your calls. Again, our toll-free number at 866-55-PRESS. And our videographer, Cyprian Bolding, has us looking good on the video cam around the globe at TawkrTV, youtube.com/TawkrTV. Congressman, we are proud. I'm a proud union member. We are a proud union shop, and we are supported by many of our great labor unions in the country. And the vice president was out yesterday speaking to the United Auto Workers here in Washington. And he said people have to remember the word union. Here's the vice president.
One of our problems is not enough elected officials remember how to pronounce the word union. Everybody talks about workers. I talk about unions.
That's classic Joe Biden.
Oh, it certainly is.
Yeah. Union. The union keeps us strong. So he's out there. He's been a great champion of organized labor his entire career.
Yeah. Well, actually, I don't know if you know, I'm a member of the United Steelworkers Union.
I didn't know that.
Yeah, I worked at Great Northern Paper Company for over 29 years. Was part of the United Paperworkers International Union, and we merged with the Steelworkers a number of years ago, and still a card-carrying union member. And matter of fact, I still had my slot in the mill until last year, until the new company took over, still on the schedule.
Hey, well, good for you. Well, I'm proud to tell you the Steelworkers are one of the sponsors of our show, and President Leo Gerard.
He's fantastic. Leo is. Yeah.
Colorful for sure, and outspoken.
Yes.
He was a guest on the show last week. We try to get him on as often as we can. So yeah,
that's great.
It's a great union. They're doing great work, and not just in steel, as you point out, paper, rubber plants. I mean, a lot of different.
Absolutely. I remember actually having my debate, and actually the Democrats were split, and I brought my lunch bucket that I carried for over 29 years on the House floor to show my Democratic colleagues that that's who I'm there to represent, the working men and women of this country. And I put that right on the desk as we were debating the trade deals.
Good for you. My union brother.
Great.
Yeah,
that's right.
So I want to ask you, you had a meeting this week or last week with the president. Had you all down this week? It was right, all down in the East Room of the White House. We reporters were not allowed into that meeting, so let me ask you now, to the extent you can talk about what was the president's message to you?
Well, he was
your message to him.
Yeah, well, the president was very brief, and he actually took a lot of questions from members of Congress, and it ranged from Iran to Syria to trade to fast track. And my question to the president was on the fast track legislation is, we got to set parameters on those who are negotiating these trade deals and want to work with the administration to set those parameters. But my big message was the fact, and it still is, under the 1941 law, the Berry Amendment, that requires all soldiers to be clothed from head to toe with American-made clothing. The military is actually getting around that by giving an allowance for athletic footwear. In Maine, we have 3 New Balance facilities in Maine that employ anywhere from 800 to 900 workers. If you look at New Balance and Wolverine's, another athletic footwear company, 100% of the materials in those sneakers are made in America. And why the president or the Department of Defense will not put out a contract is beyond me, because actually it will save money. The allowance that they give now is higher than what they could actually get a bid for the contract. And it's important that our soldiers be clothed from head to toe. I've talked to several of them when I've been to Iraq and Afghanistan, and they say if they're going to die for this country, they want to be able to make sure that they are wearing American-made clothing. The president, the response was he'll have the Secretary of Defense give me a call by the end of the week. So I'm anxiously awaiting the call, and hopefully it'll be a positive response. But he said that before, and it's pretty much been we're looking into it.
Yeah, well, good for you for raising that issue. And the idea that our American troops would be wearing anything other than made in America is pretty offensive, right?
Yes, it absolutely is. Absolutely is.
Even footwear, any part of there. I didn't realize it was the law, but it should be. But it goes back to when?
1941. 1941.
Wow.
Dang.
Yeah.
That's wild.
Yeah. And you think also the idea that you'd have to pass a law to make it that way, you would just think that we would do it. Well, and there are so many other issues like that. I know the president has been pushing for extension of unemployment insurance, for example. I mean, you talk about income inequality. That's one real positive step we could take. Why won't the Republicans go along with that? What do they get by opposing that?
I don't know. It's amazing. They think that people just want to stay home and collect, unemployment check
rather than get a job.
But quite frankly, you can't get a job. I know they use the unemployment rate's gone down and things are going well. Things are not going well. With the extension that had failed, probably right now over 4,000 Mainers are no longer getting unemployment benefits. Doesn't mean they have a job, but just they no longer counted as being unemployed. And people are hurting, and I see it in my district in the state of Maine, and hear it from my colleagues in Congress all around. And that's a good economic boom as well. Until the economy picks up, we got to do everything we can to help people survive.
And one other thing that is helping the middle class today, even though not everybody maybe recognizes it yet, is the Affordable Care Act. and yet, so there were 6 million people that have already signed up. A lot of them through Medicaid, and yet there's state after state after state where governors have said, we don't buy into this extension of Medicaid. We will not allow it to happen in our state. Senator Marco Rubio, Congressman, testified yesterday. Darrell Issa had yet another hearing on let's try to repeal Obamacare, the broken record. And he had Marco Rubio as his witness. And Rubio said that he opposed expanding Medicaid coverage because he said states, quote, would get stuck with the unfunded liability. What's the truth here?
Evidently,
and by the way, Maine is one of these states.
Yes. Evidently, the senator doesn't know what the bill does. That's obvious. Maine is one of the states. Actually, the Maine legislature, in a bipartisan manner, passed legislation to expand access under the Medicaid program. Senator Roger Cates, a Republican leader in the state Senate, came up with a compromise that for the first 3 years, which the federal government will pay 100%, they will move forward. Then the legislature can reconsider it after that. The governor vetoed that legislation. Unfortunately, the legislature was not able to override it.
Here's a program that comes with 100% federal funding, doesn't cost the state a dime, and would help all these people in Maine. How many do you know?
About 70,000 people, of which 3,000 are veterans. And what's interesting is, and this is one of the areas I held out on when we were dealing with the Affordable Care Act, is the enhanced reimbursement rate. Not only will it cover 70,000 people, of which 3,000 are veterans, it will save Maine almost $600 million over a 10-year time frame because of that enhanced reimbursement rate under Medicaid. Plus, hospitals will receive an additional $348 million over that same time frame. So it's a win-win all the way around. You save money, you cover more people, and the governor vetoed it. I know the legislatures are dealing with that issue again this year. Hopefully, they'll be able to get Republicans to go along with it and move forward.
So it's 100% federally paid for the first 3 years, and even after that, the federal percentage is pretty high, correct?
It ultimately drops down to 90%. And the reason why Maine it actually saves Maine money, because right now it's about 63% that the federal match. But Maine, per capita, we have the oldest population in the country per capita. Number one in Medicare, number two in Medicaid, and for Medicare reimbursement, we're near the bottom. So when you look at this enhanced reimbursement rate under Medicaid, it really makes a big difference, and it's a win-win all the way around. And it's just this governor is adamantly opposed to the Affordable Care Act from the get-go. He's holding strong against it, and hopefully the legislature will be able to deal with it. If not, I know if I'm elected governor, that's one of the first things I will do is put forward a Medicaid expansion for the people in the state of Maine.
Well, it's interesting that you have your governor, the governor of Florida, for example, and some others, and then you've got a Republican governor like John Kasich in Ohio. Hardly a screaming liberal who has said, well, I know a good deal when I see one. I don't agree with everything about the Affordable Care Act. I certainly don't agree with everything about President Obama. I mean, he even turned down the money for the high-speed rail. But he says on this one, it's a deal I can't refuse, right? So,
absolutely. I mean, you can put aside your philosophical differences. A governor is there to represent the people of the state of Maine or their states and do what they can to help their states out. And for any governor who would refuse this, it's just amazing that they do such a thing.
It was kind of made us all feel good before the turn of the year when the Republicans and Democrats were able to come together on a budget deal. It was a mini deal, didn't do it great, but at least they got a deal together. And people were wondering, will some of that good feeling carry over into 2014? Well, now we see there's a farm bill, right? Took 2 years in the making, but comes together in a bipartisan fashion for a farm bill. The president's going to sign it tomorrow out in East Lansing, Michigan. Anything else maybe that we can come together on? Are you keeping hope alive in the House? Is immigration a possibility, or
You're absolutely right. I mean, when you look at, we were able to get the budget bill, then the appropriation bills that followed suit,
Right.
then the farm bill. And if you look at those bills, it was overwhelming. Republicans and Democrats that supported them. And immigration's another area I know there's a lot of interest in, and hopefully we'll be able to put aside our partisan differences and really focus on dealing with the immigration issue that we currently have. And I'm hopeful that we'll be able to move forward. Right now, I don't see it happening, but we were able to get 3 big bills done, and so I'm looking forward to it.
Well, let's talk then more near term. How about the debt ceiling? This has been in the past. I mean, for the last 3 years, it's been crisis, including a government shutdown. Are we going to go through that again?
I don't think so. When you look at the government shutdown, that really put another black eye on Congress, and I think the Republican leadership learned their lessons from that, and since that shutdown, we were able to get these other 3 major bills done. It's my hope that we'll be able to get the debt ceiling done as well, and I think we can get the debt ceiling raised without much problem.
On so many of these issues, you could move them, whether it's immigration or climate change or whatever, you could move them out of the House if only the entire House were allowed to vote. Isn't that correct?
Absolutely. And that's the issue. The way that the House rules, the Republicans control what comes to the floor. And if we were allowed to vote on them, then we can get them through. Same way with unemployment extension. I think we can put that to the floor. We'll be able to get that done. But unfortunately, the Republicans have not brought those forward. And hopefully we'll see the change of heart and they'll move forward.
Minimum wage or whatever. I mean, I may be wrong, but I believe in every one of those cases we talked about, the way it was passed was that Speaker Boehner did agree to allow the entire House to vote, so Democrats and those Republicans willing to vote for those issues were able to carry the day, and the Tea Party was not able to block everything.
You're absolutely right.
The math, right?
Yes. If the Speaker brings the bills to the floor, I think you will get a good cross-section of Republicans and Democrats supporting it to get it through the process. And that's what it's all about, allowing us to vote.
Congressman Mike Michaud here from the state of Maine with us. Glad to take your calls at 866-55-PRESS. You know the toll-free number. There's a rumor going around that there's actually a governor's race in Maine going on taking place this year as well, and that one congressman sitting not so far from me might be particularly interested in that race. We'll talk about that and more with Congressman Mike Michaud when we come back here on the Bill Press Show. Again, stay with us at 866-55-PRESS.
This is the Bill Press Show. This is the Bill Press Show.
You got it 25 minutes after the hour. The Sierra Club has filed a lawsuit on the Keystone Pipeline, saying all the important documents behind the State Department's environmental impact statement have not been released. Kate Colarulli from the Sierra Club will be here with us in the next half hour to tell us all about that. Right now we're visiting with Congressman Michaud from the 2nd Congressional District of Maine. There are only 2, correct?
That's correct. Yeah.
Oh, that's all right. I was born in Delaware, and Delaware only has 1. So, and then I went to California. We've got 53 in California. So, you know, 2 is good, and you've got your hands full there. But you're looking, Congressman, at maybe moving up to. I don't know whether it's a more important job, but let's say another job, governor of Maine. What's the lay of the land there now?
Well, it's looking pretty good, and for my race, for governor, one of the interesting things
you are unchallenged so far in the Democratic primary.
No primary so far, and looks like it'll be the current Tea Party Republican Governor Paul LePage is running for re-election. Independent Elliot Cutler says he's going to run, so it very well could be a 3-way race again this year. But I look forward to it. But it was a difficult decision for me to make because I do love my job. I'm ranking member of the Veterans Affairs Committee, and we've been able to get a lot done on veterans issues and transportation. But I love the state of Maine more, and where I see this current administration leading the state down the wrong path. That made me decide to run for governor because I know I have the vision, the experience, and the commitment to put Maine back on the right track and move forward in a positive way.
What's the economy of Maine like in terms of employment, jobs? It's always been pretty hard hit. Right?
It has been pretty hard hit. Actually, the unemployment statistics are lower than the national average, but that doesn't mean people are working. One of the problems is when you look at how they calculate unemployment. If they are no longer getting unemployment benefits, then they are not considered being unemployed. And we had over 4,000 Mainers currently that a lot will, because of the extension not being extended for unemployment, are no longer counted as unemployed, but they don't have jobs. So Maine has been hit pretty hard, but jobs in the economy still is one of the top priorities in Maine, and healthcare.
And I've been encouraging Democrats to really focus on 2014. That's why I was so glad you were able to come in, because those governorships are so important, particularly when it comes to reapportionment. We're just about out of time, Congressman, but if people want to find out more about your race for governor, is there a place they can go?
They can go to Michaud2014.com.
Michaud 2014, Michaud. We'll put a link up on our website, Michaud2014.com. That's easy enough. Congressman Mike Michaud, great to know you. Thanks for coming in. Come back again soon.
I definitely will. Thanks a lot for having me, Bill. Appreciate it.
This
thanks.
is the Bill Press Show. Seen on Free Speech TV and online on TawkrTV. This is the Bill Press Show.
You got it. It's 33 minutes after the hour here. The Bill Press Show coming to you live from our nation's capital, brought to you today by the American Federation of Teachers, the good men and women. Teachers of America, members of the AFT under President Randy Weingarten, making a difference in the classrooms of America every day. You bet. You can find out more about their good work at their website, aft.org. President Obama has faced a lot of important decisions in his presidency. You know, whether or not to send more troops to Afghanistan, who to appoint to the Supreme Court, whether or not to go along with what Republicans want or let them shut down the government. All those tough decisions, but maybe the toughest of his presidency coming up, which is whether or not to approve construction of the Keystone Pipeline. And the pace of that decision has quickened a little bit after the State Department released its environmental impact statement on the Keystone Pipeline last Friday. The Sierra Club has been leading opposition to the Keystone Pipeline, including filing a lawsuit yesterday against the Army Corps of Engineers, over the Army Corps of Engineers, for not releasing all of the relevant documents. Kate Colarulli from the Sierra Club is Associate Campaign Director of their movement called Beyond Oil. She joins us in studio this morning. Hello, Kate.
Hello,
nice to see you.
For having me.
So, first, I have to ask you, the State Department concluded that the Keystone Pipeline would not, I'm not quoting it word for word, but would not significantly impact global emissions or contribute to the release of carbon emissions. How can they come to that conclusion?
Well, so that's one of the big things that's like false right now that's running around in the media. This report actually, contrary to all the past reports, did not reach that conclusion. So in the past, the State Department has found that. We've been disappointed to see that sort of result.
Yeah.
This report, for the first time ever, finds the State Department saying, we're not sure. They look at two different pathways. One in which Keystone does not end up having a significant impact, and one in which it does. And they actually find in this report, and this is very little reported on, but they find that Keystone could be the carbon equivalent of putting 5.7 million more cars on our roads. And I mean, I have to say, like, you know, just from a common sense standpoint, I think my 5-year-old niece would tell you that 6 million more cars on the road are significant in terms of global impact. But it's really important to note that despite the industry spin, this report is not decisional, and it was not able to find no significant impact.
Well, don't they conclude, or sort of, isn't it built, we've been told at any rate, and I plead guilty if I'm one of those who's
I'm here to correct you.
Thank you. Spread that. Is that the statement assumes that the oil's going to come out of the ground anyway, so if it doesn't come by pipeline, it'll get here by train or whatever.
Yeah, they do look at those different alternatives, and they find that there are some problems with these other alternatives. I mean, rail has obviously been shown to be quite dangerous. We've had a number of accidents, some of them fatal, in the United States and in Canada over the last several years as we've moved more crude by rail. There's a lot of logistical problems with moving tar sands by rail. It's like an asphalt. It's not like a liquid. So you have to heat it up. You got to heat it to put it on these rail cars. It's really heavy. You've got to keep it heated to move on rail cars. So there's some very expensive technical chemical issues with moving tar sands by rail, which they found. And yeah, I mean, they do look at the different alternatives, but what I keep coming back to with this whole thing, right, is we can spend 2,000 pages making this a very complicated issue. But the bottom line is, if this pipeline didn't matter, why is the Canadian government, why is the oil industry spending millions down here in Washington pushing for it? Mm-hmm. If this pipeline didn't matter, it wouldn't be a big deal, right? We wouldn't be here talking about it.
Well, John Boehner said it's not complicated, just build it.
That's the usual sound logic from John Boehner.
Right. And what did the EIS say about jobs?
It found that this is not a significant job creator. There'll be a couple thousand construction jobs along the route. After that, I think it's somewhere around 35 permanent jobs.
Right. When are we going to get what happens next in terms of the decision-making process?
Well, that
you
continues.
say this EIS is not decisional, is it?
No, and I say that, and I'm not the only one saying that. What the White House Chief of Staff McDonough came out on Meet the Press on Sunday and said this is not decisional. State Department officials, the lead State Department official, Carrie-Ann Jones, who runs this process for Secretary Kerry, has also said this is not a decisional statement.
So how does the process go forward from here?
Well, so next step, the way I kind of think about this is we just wrapped up the third quarter. We're pretty much in a tie. This report finds some good things for climate activists. Like I just mentioned, the 6 million cars. It finds some good things for the oil industry. And now we're headed into the fourth quarter. And so now what has to happen is 8 different federal agencies are going to come together, give recommendations, talk about what they think this means, and essentially give a recommendation to the President and to the Secretary of State as to whether or not this is in our quote-unquote national interest.
And then the Secretary of State makes his recommendation to the President, and the President makes a final decision, right?
That's what we think is going to happen. Okay. Technically, the Secretary could make that decision, but given how political this has been, given how in the mix the White House is, I think it's very likely Obama will have the final word.
All right. What was your lawsuit all about?
Well, this process has been plagued by secrecy and conflict of interest and all sorts of weird, unusual non-governmental kind of issues. And the lawsuit is just one more piece in that. So essentially, usually with a big public process like this, the documents surrounding the project are available to the public. The Sierra Club is a public advocacy organization. So we could go online and we could look at the details about where this project goes and what it impacts and birds and animals and waters and streams and all that sort of good stuff. And that has just not been the case with this project. The same way we don't really know when the decision's going to be made is just another example of the secrecy that has enveloped this whole project.
So you're demanding the release of all of these documents from
Yes.
particularly Army Corps of Engineers?
Yeah, so legally, under the Freedom of Information Act, we have a right to see these documents so that we can make an informed decision about whether it's in our interest. And so we're asking the Army Corps of Engineers to release those documents.
Okay. Now, as an environmentalist, right, I mean, my natural inclination is to oppose this project, right? But then I look at it, and still is, but when I look at it, the Keystone XL is what we're talking about, correct? Mm-hmm. It's the last link in some of this pipeline has already been built, I guess, is what I'm saying, right? So this is like the last link of an existing pipeline system, correct?
Yeah,
which is already there. I mean, like Boehner said the other day, we have 200,000 miles of pipelines in this country already. So what's this next little piece? What's the big deal?
Well, there's a bunch of different things. So first of all, it's not a little piece. I mean, we're talking about a pipeline that bisects America. We are a huge country, last time I checked. So the Keystone XL...
10 states? How many states do you know?
It goes through 6 states, and this northern portion goes through 4, and then it also goes through 2 provinces up in Canada. And we're talking about thousands of miles of pipeline. I mean, this is a mega pipeline. It also happens to be buried in one of our most important freshwater sources, the Ogallala Aquifer, which it actually currently feeds 1/3 of U.S. agriculture. So if you're somebody that cares about food, you don't need to be an environmentalist. If you just have an interest in American-made food, you should care about this pipeline. The existing Keystone system leaked 10 times, roughly around 10 times in its first year. This is like quote unquote state of the art. So pipelines leak. It's the reason we have plumbers.
Right.
Right. So and this report from the State Department actually did find that tar sands are more hazardous to our water supplies. When they do leak, they sink. They're not easy to clean up. We don't quite understand them chemically the same way we do with conventional crudes. And it definitely recommended that Keystone is not necessarily a good thing in terms of U.S. water security.
What if the president says no to this tar sands oil? Does it stay in the ground? Does it come out and is it refined in Canada? Does it come out of the ground and then come here by rail? What do we know?
Industry sources believe that this would slow the expansion of the tar sands.
Mm-hmm.
So, and it's one of the key reasons.
That's why they're fighting for it.
They're fighting for it, right? And it's one of the reasons the Sierra Club is fighting against it. We know that tar sands are one of the most harmful and toxic projects on Earth. We've called them an environmental Armageddon. I definitely urge your listeners to take a look at the pictures of the tar sands if you've never seen them. It's kind of like looking at the pits of Mordor in Lord of the Rings. I mean, it's horrific what's going on up there. And
where do they see those?
You can go to sierraclub.org.
Mm-hmm.
You could just go to Google and Google tar sands. Tar is in tarry asphalt. And sands is in sands of
got it
exactly sands of time, and really fascinating pictures.
It is certainly the most controversial environmental project to come before this administration, and I think one of the president's most important decisions, if not the toughest and most important so far. And I must admit, after the you've given me some hope. After the environmental impact statement came out, I got very, very nervous that despite all the things he said about the pipeline, that President Obama might use this as a cover to approve it.
Yeah, and I think there's a reason to be nervous about that. This has become such a political football. What I can tell you, as someone who has actually read the report, which I know is I'm amongst only a handful in this country that have, though we all talk about it, is that it definitely calls into question climate security. Like again, I mentioned this 5.7 million new cars. It definitely says that this would not be good for U.S. water security, and it questions whether or not it's good for our energy security, because it does find that the majority of this oil would be used for export.
And there's a lot riding on this decision in terms of the future of our energy policy in this country, for sure. The Sierra Club is all over it. Kate Colarulli helping lead the fight for the Sierra Club, and she is here to take your questions and suggestions and comments at 866-55-PRESS. We'll be right back.
This is the Bill Press Show. seen on Free Speech TV and online on TawkrTV. This is the Bill Press Show.
Here we go, 12 minutes before the hour. Keystone Pipeline, it has become the major environmental energy issue of the day. Kate Colarulli from the Sierra Club here in studio with us. Kate, before we get to the calls, and we got a lot of them about this, here is what the president said last June at Georgetown University. I want to be clear. Allowing the Keystone Pipeline to be built requires a finding that doing so would be in our nation's interest, and our nation's interest will be served only if this project does not significantly exacerbate the problem of carbon pollution. Now, does that set him up to say yes or no?
Yes, I think it sets him up to say no. I think it's really clear when you look at this project from an unbiased standpoint, when you push away all the spin that's come out from the industry. Yes, this is obviously a climate disaster.
All right. Then when the State Department EIS comes out and says under one scenario it would have a negligible effect or would not significantly impact, doesn't that give the president cover to say yes if he wants to?
I do think the State Department report gives the president cover to go either way. But I think what's critical is that we remember who wrote the State Department report. Right, you've got a dues-paying member of the American Petroleum Institute writing this report. And both the State Department and the White House came out after this said and went on record and said, this is not a decisional document.
So
we're going to take a lot of stuff into consideration.
Do you think it's still an open question, and the public response to this will have a lot to do with what the president does?
Yeah, I think absolutely. I think when he's thinking about what's in our national interest and he's seen, on Monday night after this report came out, there were 280 vigils that got organized around the country. This is apparently one of the largest public responses to an Obama administration, kind of taking to the streets kind of responses to an Obama administration decision that we've seen to date. When you're faced with that kind of public opposition, I'm hopeful.
Yeah. By the way, I meant to mention this right at the beginning of this segment. You've heard us talk a lot about ProFlowers with Valentine's Day coming up. We are going to be giving away some gift certificates for ProFlowers. You can always get to ProFlowers if you go to proflowers.com. Don't forget to mention my name, Press, when you go to order. But if you follow us on Twitter, we'll be giving away some gift certificates. But you have to be following us on Twitter at BP Show to be able to qualify for one of those gift certificates.
Yep, go do it now.
Peter will check it out. Let's say hello to Elaine, if we can, Kate, out in Chicago. Hi, Elaine.
Hi.
Yes, your point.
Oh, my point. I wondered what you think of the validity of the argument that if we don't transport this tar sands, other countries will that have worse environmental standards than ours.
Okay. We'll get your question. Take your answer on the air. Kate?
Yeah, I think that's a great question. Unfortunately, there are no other routes right now that are viable to get this to market, or I should say fortunately. Canadians on both sides, the West Coast and the East Coast, are currently in opposition to moving tar sands through their own provinces. There's a reason, right, that the Canadians are pushing so hard to move something this large through the middle of the U.S.
Because Canadians don't want it.
Canadians don't want it.
Dave's calling from Madison, Wisconsin on 92.1 The Mic. Hello, Dave.
Hey, Bill, your guest is outstanding.
She's great.
Yeah, fantastic. When they compare an action, like under this environmental impact statement, they have to make a no-action alternative.
Mm-hmm.
When they're saying that it's not significant, it seems that they're comparing it to the assumption that it'll either be done by rail or by truck. That doesn't seem like a valid assumption. It seems like they had to compare it to not pulling those tar sands out, and I'm wondering what your guest thought.
Okay, thanks, Dave.
Yeah, that's very astute. That he's definitely looking more into the details of what's actually happening. So when we think about this question, that's exactly what the State Department's doing. They're saying, oh, there's these other ways it could go. But when you look at what the industry itself and the financial institutions that fund this industry are saying, Goldman Sachs, Royal Bank of Canada, CIBC, they all believe that these other, no-action alternatives are not viable.
So it seems to me that if the president really believes that climate change is a serious problem, really believes we have to move to a non-fossil fuel or beyond fossil fuel, post-fossil fuel economy, energy policy, he's got to say no, doesn't he?
Yeah, I think that's right. And I think it's about making the right choices today for tomorrow. So, Keystone is so symbolic because it's a single decision that he can make. It's not going to immediately change the entire world and how we use energy, but it is emblematic of what direction we want to head in as a country.
Yeah. Well, this is bigger than a pipeline. This is really, really a hugely important decision on the part of the President. And Kate Colarulli, thank you for all the good work you guys are doing at the Sierra Club.
Thank you so much
Been a
for
member a long
having
time.
me. It's been a pleasure.
SierraClub.org. Let's just find out more about this, and I'll be back with today's parting shot. Thanks,
All right,
Kate.
Thank you.
This is the Bill Press Show. The Parting Shot with Bill Press. This is the Bill Press Show.
Okay, just a quick word today to join the chorus of voices congratulating and thanking CVS for its big announcement yesterday that's not going to sell cigarettes any longer. They were the first national pharmacy to do so, the first national retailer to do so since Target stopped selling cigarettes in 1996. Yep, that change is going to cost them $2 billion, but they say it's inconsistent to sell cigarettes, inconsistent with the purpose of helping people stay healthy, which is, after all, what drugstores are supposed to be all about. It's a bold move. It's the right move. It is won them praise from President Obama on down. Now we can only hope that other national chains will follow the lead of CVS. We'll have a spokesperson from the American Lung Association here with us tomorrow to tell us all about why that's so important. Also, Republican consultant Richard Galen and Susan Page from USA Today. Great show tomorrow. Have a good day. We'll see you back here tomorrow.